And please tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I would love to interact with you legends. Now to the story. I'd never thought grocery store trips would turn into something I dreaded. Used to be simple. Grab some cereal, maybe a drink, head back home and chill. But then there was this guy named Michael. At first he felt like one of those random employees doing surveys. Clipboard, sheet pen, half smile like he's trying to look friendly, but mostly looks like he is pretending to be busy. I did not care. Everyone has some job they gotta do, but he kept showing up. Always where I went. Always at the exact hour I showed up. Always in the exact aisle I walked into first. That stopped feeling random fast. The first time I saw him outside that one grocery store, I tried brushing it off. Maybe he also needed food after work. The second time I saw him outside the other store I sometimes used 3 miles away, I got this weird pressure in my chest like something was lining up too perfectly. He did that thing where he said he was researching customer habits. He said it like he believed it. But he also remembered every little detail about when I usually shopped. It wasn't friendly. It felt like someone keeping stats on me, like I turned into a pattern he could count on. Days started getting repetitive. I would walk into any store, and there he would be, always already standing exactly where I needed something, grabbing the same brand, reading the same label. Once I switched stores and even switched the day. I went early morning instead of afternoon because who wants to bump into some dude taking notes every time they need toothpaste? But I walked in and yeah, Michael was right by the entrance like he teleported there first. He even greeted me before I grabbed a cart. He said something about this time being different. How I usually come later. He said it like it was a score he kept. I went to a mall once just to avoid supermarkets completely. I figured maybe I could grab snacks there. Maybe go through a different entrance. Maybe he would forget me. But Michael walked out of a clothing store. Clipboard again. Like he moved departments to stick with me. He said customers often shop in clusters. I pretended I did not hear it. I just moved fast. He followed a little too close behind. His shoes tapped the floor like a metronome marking every step I took. I tried not to think too much. But the world starts shrinking when someone keeps showing up like they know your route better than you do. Even in gas station convenience store. The one I only go to when I'm too tired to go elsewhere. He was there, grabbing candy off a shelf, but not even buying anything. When I paid and walked out, he walked out too. I stared at the sky blaming some messed up coincidence. Except coincidence should end eventually. This didn't. One time I skipped the store completely. I ordered food online to avoid the whole deal. I stayed in my place all day, watching random videos, trying to forget everything. Around the same hour I normally go shopping, I heard footsteps outside and looked through the blinds. Michael was across the street holding that same clipboard. He kept checking his watch. He wasn't even pretending to shop. He was just waiting for something that didn't happen. So he wrote something down. Maybe he wrote that I broke the pattern. Maybe he did not like that. From then on, I noticed my schedule wasn't my own. I kept changing the times I went out. Morning, evening, random hours. But no matter what I changed, he adjusted. Like I lived inside his calendar. Like every movement I made fed some chart he crafted. I wondered if I was the only one he followed, or if he had a whole network of people he tracked. But every time I saw him, his eyes were on me first, like I was the main project. I tried ignoring him harder. Headphones fit up, eyes on the list. I would pick random aisles and zigzag like I was actually shopping, but only to throw him off. He still managed to bump into me exactly at the end of each aisle like we were magnets. Even if I grabbed random items I didn't need, he already acted like he planned for it. Like he predicted what I would do next. At some point I stopped feeling like a person and started feeling like a lab rat in some huge store-sized maze. One night I decided screw it, I would drive 30 minutes away to a store I never go to. I checked maps. I checked the hours. I even parked at the back far away from cameras. The air felt fresh because I thought I actually beat him. I walked inside, grabbed a cart, turned into the first aisle, and there he was, standing like he had been waiting for me to arrive. Not even pretending to be busy. Clipboard down. Eyes up. This weird grin like I confirmed some prediction he already wrote. I dropped the cart and left without grabbing anything. I did not even think. I just walked out. Heart pounding hard against my ribs like it wanted to run faster than my legs. I jumped in the car and drove without direction. I ended up in a random parking lot by an empty field. I sat there trying to breathe slower. I thought maybe this was fixable. Maybe tell someone. But who believes a story about a guy who is always there? It sounds like pure paranoia until it isn't. After that, I started watching the calendar on my phone, started counting days, trying to remember every place I saw him, how often, whether he ever slipped. He never did, even when I changed everything about my routine. Random gas stops, different stores, skipping some trips. He always refreshed. He always found me. Lately, I started noticing different clothes on him. Different store badges, like he swapped jobs to stay closer. Maybe the clipboard isn't his job. Maybe I am. Sometimes I stare at him from behind shelves trying to understand why me. But he never breaks that same bland smile, the one that hides something colder under it. My house feels too small now even when Michael isn't visible, because I keep imagining him tracking the time I wake up or the time I go to sleep. When I think of leaving, I picture him already waiting at the next place. His legs crossed, that pen ready, like my whole life turned into an entry he logs. I tried staying home for days, eating what I had, keeping lights low, no store visits. I thought silence would help, but there he was again when I finally needed bread. Not at the store this time. Standing near the exit before I walked out. Clipboard shut like he didn't need it anymore. Maybe he memorized everything now. Maybe he knows the pattern so well he doesn't have to write anything else. If he wants the schedule so bad, maybe I should give him something boring. Maybe stop going out altogether. Maybe change everything in a way that annoys him. I don't know. I just know every time I walk into public, I expect his face first before any shelf or product or cashier. Like he owns the route and I just travel through it. Every normal person wants their life to feel predictable sometimes, but not like this. Not when it feels like someone else is writing the rules. I live here. Not him. But he acts like he owns every aisle my feet touch. It's weird how you don't notice freedom until someone else maps it. And now every grocery trip feels like proof he still sees me, still knows me, still wants my next move before I think it. I never asked for a fan or a stalker or whatever he is playing at. I just wanted cereal and snacks. I always thought work was the boring part of life. You clock in, you do what you gotta do, you clock out, you go home and relax. Nothing wild, nothing mysterious. But then Eve showed up and decided I needed a fan club of exactly one person. She kept calling herself my biggest fan, like I was some famous dude when I barely get through a shift without staring at the clock every 2 minutes. I figured she was just trying to be friendly or maybe trying too hard to stand out in a room full of people who only care about payday. But she started knowing stuff that nobody should know. The weird part kicks in right away. Eve always commented on how I spent my nights. She would say how cool it was that I stayed up late playing games or scrolling through random dumb videos. She described my living room like she read my mind, even though I always keep my curtains shut. She would talk about things I bought for my kitchen. She would say stuff like how funny it is that I always microwave frozen pizza instead of using the oven. I never told anyone that. I barely admit it to myself because microwave pizza never cooks right in the middle. Yet she talked about it like she was standing next to me every time I hit the start button. Before Eve, work breaks were quiet. I sat alone, scrolled my phone, maybe finished a snack. She suddenly popped up every single break, not once missing a chance, always smiling way too wide like she knew something good was coming. And then she would mention something I did the night before, like how long I slept, what show I watched, when I turned off the lights, stuff you can't guess right. At first I laughed awkwardly. I pretended I posted more online than I do, but I barely share anything. My accounts are private and dead. I started thinking maybe I talk in my sleep loud enough for neighbors to hear, even though my walls are thick. None of it made sense. One day she talked about a poster above my bed. I froze. Nobody sees that room but me. I keep my door locked when friends come over. She even mentioned how it was slightly crooked because I used one sticker instead of nails. I tried to play it cool, but inside I felt something snap. There was no excuse. She should not know that. I remember driving home after that shift and staring at my house from outside like it was some stranger's place. I scanned the windows, the roof, the yard, like I was looking for signs someone else had been there. When I got inside, I checked everything. Under the bed, behind the TV, inside closets. Any place someone could hide or plant something. Nothing looked messed with. Nothing missing. Nothing out of place except my brain feeling like it was being squeezed. I sat on the edge of my couch staring at the curtains thinking maybe I should buy thicker ones. Maybe I should sleep facing the wall for once. I hated how my own place felt like it was leaking secrets. At work, Eve watched me like I was a show. I tried talking to other coworkers more, trying to shift attention, but she always slid into every group like she rehearsed her timing. She would place herself close enough to hear anything I said. When she laughed, she looked right at me, even if the joke wasn't mine. She acted like we were this tight duo, even though I kept stepping farther away. There was this one Monday where I barely spoke a word. I dragged myself through the day because I stayed up late thinking about how much she seemed to know. She came up to me and said she hoped my headache felt better. I never said I had one. I did have one, though, pounding heavy. I just stared at her thinking, how does she know every detail about my life like she unlocked some cheat code? So I changed my routine. I turned off all lights until I needed them. I moved furniture around just to see if she noticed. I bought new snacks and hid them in different cabinets. I put tape on the windows to check if someone messed with them. Every night felt like a test. Every morning felt like I was waiting for a grade. Then the next day she mentioned something new I thought I kept private. She talked about how my room smelled like the new air freshener I bought at the random store across town. She talked about how I tossed and turned for hours before finally sleeping. She nearly read the messages I typed but deleted before sending, describing the exact words I thought nobody saw. I knew I was being watched. I just didn't know how. Camera, someone hacking my phone, someone getting inside. I tried imagining someone crawling around my house while I slept, and that thought alone almost made me move out. Except I didn't want to run. Why should I be the one who leaves the place I live? I tried telling myself she was guessing, but the accuracy get too close every time. Guesses don't get everything right. My next move was getting home early one day, way earlier than usual. I skipped hanging out after work and drove straight home with this sharp idea that maybe I could catch something. I parked the street over, walked quiet, unlocked the door slow. No sound inside. I stepped room to room. Nothing moved. Everything exactly where I left it except one thing. The notebook on my desk sat open. I never leave it open. I write private thoughts in there sometimes when I get bored. Nobody knows it exists. The page was read, not by me. Someone wrote about me. Exactly what I did the night before. Exact time I fell asleep. The page before that had last week. The next page had plans I didn't even make yet. Like someone mapping out who I would be tomorrow. I shut the notebook and felt sick like my house was laughing in my face. I knew I needed to lock it in a drawer. I knew I needed to burn the whole thing, but I just shoved it away like that would erase what I saw. The next day at work, Eve smiled bigger than ever. She told me how cool it was that I got home early yesterday. She said she liked that new hiding spot I chose for my notebook. She even mentioned how I'd paced around checking every corner like a detective. Every word she said rubbed salt into a cut I didn't know I had until now. I tried ignoring her after that. Headphones everywhere, eyes low, short answers. I skipped lunch in the break room. I sat outside even in bad weather. She followed anyway. She leaned near me and talked like she owned parts of my life, like she was the backup brain I never asked for. I think she wants me to accept that she sees everything. Maybe she thinks this is friendship. Maybe she believes she cares. But caring doesn't break into someone's privacy. Caring doesn't erase the thin line between knowing someone and tracking them. Now when I get home, I lock everything twice. I move my bed away from the window. I keep checking corners before I relax. It's exhausting living like my walls have eyes. But I swear if I hear even one thing creak that shouldn't creak, I'll lose it. I never thought I'd fear someone smiling at me. But Eve smiles like she already watched the rest of my life and can't wait to see me find out what she knows next. I used to think getting packages was the highlight of my week. You know that rush you get when the doorbell rings and you know something you ordered finally landed at your place. Even when it is something boring like new socks, it feels good. You open the box and it is like a tiny reward for existing. That was me. Totally normal about online shopping. Then Jake came into the picture and turned every package into something that made me want to throw up instead of get excited. The first time I met him, he looked like your average delivery dude. Big smile. Clipboard. One of those neon vests that looks way too bright even in daylight. He handed me a package and said he found it. That threw me off because why would a delivery driver say he found something that he was clearly just delivering? I figured maybe he was new and didn't know the right way to say stuff. I thanked him and closed the door fast so he would not see how weirded out I already was. I opened the package. Inside was a hat I had added to my online cart earlier that morning. I had not bought it yet. I never clicked checkout. It should not have existed in a box on my porch. I tried convincing myself I must have bought it and forgot. Busy brain. It happens. I did not want to admit how wrong it felt. Next time it happened was only 2 days later. Jake again. He smiled like we were old friends. The box he handed me was heavy. He said something about how lucky I was he found it before someone stole it. I did not even order anything that week. Inside was a set of kitchen knives I had searched for on a random shopping app. They cost around $45, and I knew for a fact I never hit buy. But here they were. Wrapped. Sharp. Real. Sitting on my counter like some ghost shopper was treating me. I called customer service, trying to figure out if some glitch placed orders for me. They said I had no recent purchases. None. It checked everything twice. They suggested maybe a friend sent gifts. I do not have friends who would send kitchen knives, and nobody knew what I searched online. That night, I stared at my laptop thinking maybe someone hacked me. I changed passwords, logged out of everything, even deleted the app I'd used to browse shopping stuff. I said to myself that was it. Problem solved. No more random boxes. Wrong. 3 days later, another package. Jake again. Not the usual uniform this time. He wore a casual jacket like this was a personal drop-off, not his job. He winked when I answered the door. The package had no label. I opened it inside. A backpack. Same exact model I looked at for 5 seconds the night before. I had been scrolling backpacks because mine had a broken strap. I did not even bookmark the page. And yet the backpack sat on my table like the internet coughed it into existence. I could not pretend anymore. Someone was watching what I searched. Not what I bought. What I thought about buying. That feels 10 times worse. It is like privacy does not exist once you go online. Except this was beyond creepy. It was targeted, real. Delivered right onto my porch by a dude acting like he was doing me favors. The next morning, I woke up early and watched from behind the blinds. My street looked normal. Calm. Birds messing around with trash cans. Nothing wrong. I went to brush my teeth, and when I came back to the window, there he was. Jake, standing across the street with a medium-sized box in his hands. No vehicle anywhere. No delivery truck. Just him, staring up at my window like he knew I was watching. He did not move. He did not blink. Just held that box like it belonged to me, and he was waiting for me to come get it. I waited until he gave up and left, but he placed the box on my porch first. Inside it was a hoodie, the same one I hovered over online for a few seconds but never bought. The exact color, the exact size. My own brain betrayed me because I thought about how good it looked and suddenly it was here. My stomach dropped. This was not fate. This was not a glitch. Someone was feeding Jake a list of everything I searched, and he was using that list to show up at my place like some personal stalker Santa. I tried avoiding the house more, hanging out anywhere else, at my cousin's place, at the park. But when I came home, the box was always waiting. Always something I searched for but never bought. A new phone case. That stupid blender that everyone on social media kept advertising. Even gum. Who delivers gum? That one was around $1 and came in an oversized box like it was expensive jewelry. Jake always found a way to be part of the handoff. I started searching weird things as a test. Stuff nobody would ever give someone. Adult diapers. A rusty mailbox. A single shoe. Some random tool I could not even name. Next day, Jake delivered a box with a piece of that rusty mailbox inside. He gave me this look that said he liked the challenge. Like he wanted to prove he could still keep up with my searches even when I tried messing with him. I tried confronting him once. I asked how he kept finding me. He just gave that same smile and walked away like he did not hear me. He never speaks besides that first weird line about finding the package. But his silence is loud in a way I can't explain. He knows things he has no right to know. I even tried not searching anything online. I'd unplugged my router, I shut down every app. But time passes and people get curious. One night I searched one tiny thing, a baseball cap. I told myself it was safe because I would not click anything. I only looked. Big mistake. Next morning a baseball cap was leaning against my door. Jake did not even bother knocking. Now it is like a game I never agreed to. Every time a bell rings or a shadow moves near the porch, I freeze. I do not want anything anymore. I do not buy things online. I avoid anything that might show interest. Even in my mind, I try not to think about wanting stuff, because it feels like if I think too loud, a box will show up the next day. And every time I see a new package before I'd even open it, I know the truth hiding inside. Someone watches what I search, what I want, what I almost want. And Jake delivers it like he is in on the secret and loves every second of it. He does not work for the delivery service anymore. Different clothes, different hours, no truck, but he always comes to my porch, like my house is his workplace now, like his job is me. Now when I step outside, I scan every direction, checking if he is nearby. I act like I am not scared, but I am done pretending this is anything normal. I used to love the sound of a package hitting the door. Now it feels like a warning that Jake knows me better than I know myself. There is a box sitting out there right now while I write this. I can see the corner of it through the glass. I did not order anything. I did not search anything. I do not want anything. But it is here. I do not know how long Jake will keep delivering. I do not know what happens when he thinks I should receive something bigger than a hoodie or a box of gum. I never thought renting an apartment would come with someone who acts like they own my entire life, but that pretty much sums up Andy from the leasing office. When I first moved here, she seemed alright. The type who wears name tags like they are badges of honor and talks about community rules like she wrote them herself. I figured she was just doing her job. Everybody needs a paycheck. But then she started treating my place like it was a room she could just wander into whenever she felt bored. It started small. Notices taped to the door saying routine checks were coming up. Stuff about making sure smoke alarms weren't broken and pipes weren't leaking. Normal apartment things. The first few times, I cleaned up a little more than usual and left the place hoping it would pass whatever inspection they needed. When I came back, everything looked untouched. I assumed the checks really were quick and boring. Then week after week, these checks kept becoming a thing. It did not matter if the notice said yearly or quarterly, they somehow needed to come back again way too soon. And every time, something inside my apartment felt slightly different. The first time I noticed, it was my remote. I always leave it on the right side of the couch. It was on the left side. I told myself I forgot. Then my shoes were turned a different way. Then a drawer I never opened was cracked just enough for me to notice. Small things that make your stomach twist, but not enough proof to accuse anyone. Andy always smiled when I picked up mail or asked questions. She had this smile that stretched too wide, like she already knew what I was going to say. I told her the checks seemed pretty frequent. She nodded like she had a perfectly normal explanation ready, but didn't actually say anything, just smiled. One day, I purposely left a coin on the floor behind the front door. I placed it carefully so that if anybody opened the door and stepped inside, the coin would slide or flip. When I returned later, the coin had flipped over. Same spot, different side. That was the first moment I admitted to myself someone was going inside my apartment when I wasn't there. Not just stepping in and leaving, actually moving around and looking at things like they were keeping the score. After that, I set up more tiny traps. I put a hair across the seam of my bedroom closet. I set a deodorant stick exactly on the edge of the sink. I leaned a pencil on the inside of a cabinet door. The traps always got triggered, and not slightly, like someone was actively searching around. Not checking for safety, checking me. I wanted to confront her so many times. I would picture walking into that leasing office and asking why she thought she could walk into the place. I lived like she rented it to herself. I would imagine recording the conversation, but every time I saw her face, I froze. It was not fear exactly. More like she would twist whatever I said into permission, like saying anything would make it worse. I tried staying home during a so-called routine check. I sat in the dark ignoring the knock, pretending I was not there. She knocked once, then twice. Then she jiggled the handle like she expected the lock to just open for her. I held my breath until she finally left. Later that day, I found one of the window latches unlocked. I know I locked it. I always lock everything. So now I have a person who enters my place even when I say no. Someone who wants me to know she was there, because she keeps leaving little signs, like she wants credit for her work. Once I walked in and my bed covers were folded back like someone sat on the edge. A glass I left drying on the counter was now inside the cabinet. A picture frame faced a different direction. None of it loud or messy, just quiet proof. I told myself maybe someone else from the building did it accidentally. Maybe maintenance needed to check the air filters. But then I found a sticky note on my fridge that wasn't mine. It said, "Nice posters." I have 2 posters in my room. Nobody else sees them. The worst part is I know she wants me to react, because the day after the sticky note, she spoke to me near the mailboxes. She mentioned how it must be nice to decorate your place exactly how you want. She mentioned my posters specifically, the exact ones. The only ones I have. The way she said it made my skin feel too tight, like she stood in my room and stared for a while. I tried to fight back quietly. I installed a cheap camera hidden behind some books. I put my keys in a weird place to see if she moved them. I left drawers purposely messy to tell if someone rifled through them. But when I checked footage after a week, the camera was gone. The books were moved slightly. The outlet where it was plugged in looked untouched. But the camera was simply not there anymore. She did not steal anything else, just the camera. That's when I knew she wanted me to know that she knew. She wasn't trying to hide it. She was trying to show she had power. And me trying to watch her only made her watch me harder. I asked other people in the building if their places get checked a lot. Most said once a year. One guy said his was checked twice because of a water pipe issue. Nobody mentioned weekly checks. Nobody complained about missing cameras or moved stuff. It felt like I was the only one with a target over my door. I started double locking everything. I bought a latch for my bedroom door. I stacked stuff in front of my windows. Living like that sucks, but feeling like someone prowls through your private life sucks worse. One day I came home and found my entire living room rearranged. Couch angled different. TV shifted. The rug rolled up halfway like someone got bored moving it. My hoodie, the one I left hanging, was folded perfectly on the table. I dropped everything I was holding. That was the moment panic hit me full force and refused to leave. I called the office pretending I just wanted to confirm when the next routine check was scheduled. Andy answered. She said there was none planned. She said the last one was months ago. She said if anything in my unit seemed different, maybe I just forgot where I put stuff. That was the biggest lie I ever heard. And she said it so smoothly she must have practiced. I hung up before I said something stupid. Now I keep thinking she watches me react, like she wants to see how scared I get. Like every little change she makes is a test to push me further. Sometimes I wake up and see my bedroom door open when I swear I latched it. Other times I come out of the shower and the bathroom mirror has a tiny spot wiped clean in the corner like someone leaned in close. I do not sleep much. I lay in bed listening to every noise in the walls. I stare at the door waiting for the knob to move. I keep imagining she has a key to every part of my life. Maybe she thinks she is protecting me. Maybe she thinks she is part of my daily routine. Maybe she just likes being inside places without permission. I do not know which reason is worse. What I do know is she doesn't act like she works for the building anymore. She acts like she owns what happens behind my door. Like the apartment is just a box she can open whenever she wants to see what changed. Whenever I leave now, I turn and look at the door, not to make sure it is locked, but to accept that the lock is only for me. Andy comes and goes on her own schedule. My walls are just suggestions to her. My privacy is optional. So there's this guy, Darnell. I never really spoke to him before any of this started, just nodded a couple times when we passed each other outside. He lives 2 units down in the same complex, always wearing socks with sandals and a Bluetooth headset like it's still 2010. The first time I even remembered his name was when I saw it on a notice taped to my door. Some dumb complaint about my car being parked too close to the fire lane, even though I was in my own spot like always. I figured it was some mistake. Maybe someone else named Darnell in another building. I didn't think twice. But then 2 more complaints came the next week. One said my car was leaking oil. It wasn't. Another said my license plate looked expired, even though I just renewed it last month. All of them were signed by him. At that point, I was starting to think he had a personal issue with my car, or me, or both. Then it got weirder. One morning, I walked out and saw a bright orange sticker slapped across my windshield. Towing morning. I stood there just staring at it, half asleep, holding my keys in a half-eaten breakfast bar. I was late for work already, and I didn't have time to deal with this, but sure enough, 10 minutes later a tow truck pulls up. I try explaining to the driver that my registration's current, that this is my spot, that I literally live here, but he's just doing his job and won't hear it. That's when Darnell comes strolling out of his unit like he's been watching this whole time. He's got this fake surprised look on his face and goes, "Oh man, they're towing you." And before I can even reply, he starts telling the driver to wait up. Maybe there's been a misunderstanding, like he's trying to help. But it was him. I saw the paperwork, same handwriting, same signature. I didn't say anything to him that day. I just paid the $210 to stop the tow from happening and drove off. But I kept thinking about it. Like, what kind of person files bogus complaints and then shows up to play the hero when it backfires? The next day, he was outside again. I could feel him watching me from behind those ugly-ass shades as I pulled into my spot. He waved. I didn't wave back. After that, it was like he was always around. If I came outside to throw something in the dumpster, he just happened to be checking his mail. If I was washing my car, he'd come out with a rag and start wiping down his door handles. And every single time, he tried to talk to me. Asked if I needed help charging my battery once. Another time, he mentioned some car security tips like he was doing me a favor. I never asked for advice. I started noticing little things after that. The way my driver's side mirror looked like it had been nudged slightly in, or how my tire pressure light would flick on even though I'd just filled in the day before. I even found a plastic fork under my wiper once, stuck in a way that I swear someone placed on purpose. Every time something off happened, he'd appear, always with some weird smile like he was waiting for me to thank him. I decided to test it. One night, I left my car slightly angled out of the lines on purpose. Nothing major, just enough to trigger someone petty. Sure enough, the next afternoon, another complaint. This time it said vehicle obstructing shared space. 2 hours later, there he was again, acting like he just noticed it too, and shaking his head like we were both innocent bystanders. That was the point I started taking photos of everything. Every new complaint, every little shift in my car's position, timestamps, and ball. I thought maybe I could catch him in the act, but Darnell was sneaky. If he was messing with my car, he did it when I wasn't home. And he always showed up just late enough to look uninvolved. It hit me that it wasn't about the car anymore. I think he liked being needed, or looking like he was. Maybe he thought if he kept showing up during my low moments, I'd start to trust him. Like he was training me to associate him with help. It was kind of like someone setting fires just to be the one who puts them out. Except his fires were paperwork and passive-aggressive comments. One morning, I went out and found a small scratch in the passenger side door. Just a few inches, nothing deep, but it was fresh. And of course, Darnell came out the moment I knelt down to look at it. Said something about how people these days don't respect other people's property. Then he asked if I wanted him to install a dash cam he just happened to have lying around. I told him no. I stopped parking in front of the building after that. Started leaving my car on the street around the corner just to see what he'd do. First day, nothing. Second day, nothing. But by day 3, he walked all the way over there while I was getting out, just to tell me the area wasn't safe at night. I think he actually believed he was being subtle. It's been about a month now and I still don't park out front. He keeps asking if my car's in the shop or if I sold it. He even offered me a ride to the grocery store one day, which I declined before he finished the sentence. He acts disappointed now when I don't engage, like I'm the one being rude for not appreciating his attention. Last week, he handed me a flyer for a neighborhood safety watch, meeting he's apparently organizing. I told him I was busy. He smiled real polite, but he hasn't said much to me since. I think maybe he's moved on to someone else. Or maybe he's just waiting for another excuse to pop up. It started with something small. That's usually how it goes, right? You're just trying to get through the day, do your thing, not draw attention. And then suddenly someone locks in on you like you're the main character of their private movie, and you're not even sure what genre you're in. That's what it felt like with Freya. First day of the semester, I walked into that lecture hall with headphones in and low expectations. It was one of those giant rooms with stadium seating and a weird echo, always too cold no matter what jacket you wore. I picked a spot somewhere near the middle, not too close to the front to look try-hard, not too far back to look like I didn't care, just neutral. I didn't notice her at first. She came in late, maybe 5 minutes into the lecture, and sat behind me. No big deal. People come and go. Then the weird stuff started happening around the second week. I was answering the question out loud, and I sort of paused to find the right word. Nothing dramatic, just a normal pause. And then I heard it. The word I was about to say, spoken right behind me, quiet but clear. Same exact word. It wasn't even a common one. I thought it was a coincidence at first, like maybe she was just thinking the same thing. That happens, right? But it didn't stop. It kept happening. Not just with answers in class. During group discussions, I'd start saying something and she'd quietly mumble the rest under her breath right before I said it. Not repeating me, getting there before I did, saying phrasing, same order like she was reciting something she already read. By week 4, it wasn't just happening once or twice. It was constant. Every time I spoke, I could feel her behind me, shadowing my words a second ahead like she was reading a script I hadn't seen. I even tested it. Made my sentences longer, added weird transitions, shifted how I spoke. She still beat me to it. Not loud enough for the professor to hear, but just enough that I could. Just enough to get under my skin. I tried switching seats. I came in early and picked a row on the far right. Didn't stop her. She showed up late again and took the seat behind me. Always behind. It's not like she ever spoke to me directly. She never tried to make small talk after class or asked to borrow a pen or anything. It was the only time I existed to her was when I was talking. And not even in a normal way. It was like she was trying to sing with me. Like she already knew what I'd say. I told my friend Cam about it, and he just laughed. Said she probably had a crush on me or something. But this didn't feel like that. It wasn't flirty or awkward. It was surgical. She didn't react when I stumbled over a word or made a joke. Just kept finishing my sentences like she already knew where I was going, like she rehearsed it. One day I stayed after class and waited by the vending machines watching the hallway. I saw her come out, same blank expression, same slow steps like she had all the time in the world. She didn't look around, didn't check her phone, just walked straight to the exit like the day was over, like there wasn't anything weird going on. That night, I couldn't focus. I went over everything I'd said in class. Started wondering if maybe I'd talk in a predictable pattern. Maybe I'm easy to guess, but it didn't add up. No one's that predictable. And she didn't just get the words. She got the rhythm too. She paused where I paused. Said them with the same pace. It got to a point where I stopped talking in class altogether. I'd open my mouth and feel her behind me, waiting ready. Like she wanted me to go first so she could keep matching it. So I stopped. I just sat there, took notes, kept my head down. She didn't like that. That's when she started whispering the sentences anyway. Just low enough that no one else noticed. I'd be sitting there in silence and hear my thoughts come out of her mouth like she had access to them. Stuff I was about to say if I had spoken. She said them like she was filling in blanks that didn't exist. I got so freaked out I started sitting in the back row against the wall. Thought maybe she'd take the hint. But she just moved up a row, directly in front of me now. And even then, I could see her mouth moving, saying nothing out loud, but still matching the pace of what I was thinking. One time I stayed up late going through the lecture recordings trying to catch her voice in the background. I slowed down one of the videos and sure enough, at the exact moment I paused during a sentence, there it was, a whisper, one word ahead of mine. I couldn't even hear what she said exactly, just the timing. That slight breath before my words. It was so specific, so controlled. I finally tried talking to her. Caught her after class one day and asked her straight up if we'd met before. She just looked at me like she didn't understand the question. Tilted her head, blinked once, then smiled. Not a warm smile, just polite. The kind you give a stranger asking for directions. Then she said, "You should talk more in class." That was it. No explanation, no follow-up. Just that. Then she walked off. I read her name off the attendance sheet after that. Full name, looked her up online. No real presence, just an old social profile with 3 pictures and one of those weird bios that says student, learner, listener. Nothing else. No posts. No tags. Just empty. Next week, she wasn't in class. I thought maybe she dropped. I almost relaxed. But then 2 days later, she was back, and she brought a notebook. Not unusual, right? But I saw it when she opened it. The pages were filled with my handwriting. My exact handwriting. Notes I'd written weeks ago, same margins, same little underlines. She wasn't even copying it during class. She already had it. I stopped going. Told the professor I had something going on and started catching up online. Watched lectures from home. But then during a group project meeting on campus, she showed up even though she wasn't in the assigned group. Just sat there at another table. Didn't speak. Just stared down at her notebook, occasionally mouthing words I hadn't even said yet. Last thing that happened, I got a copy of our midterm back. I did okay. Nothing special. But then I read hers. Someone left it on the desk by mistake, and it was mine. Same structure, same phrases, same mistakes. Word for word. Even the typo I made in the third paragraph. She hadn't just guessed what I was going to say. She memorized it before I even wrote it. That was the last time I saw her in person. I still get notifications from our class discussion board, though. Sometimes I'll write a post, and seconds later there's a reply from her account. The replies always open the same way, like she's finishing my sentence, like she started typing before I even posted it. I don't run because I love it. Let's get that out of the way. I run because it keeps me from going nuts. It's just one of those things I picked up when everything else was falling apart. School stuff, friend group weirdness, this general stuck feeling that wouldn't go away. Running gave me a routine when I had nothing else solid. Headphones in, same loop through the neighborhood, around the park, back home. Didn't matter what time of year or what mood I was in, I'd still show up for it. That loop became mine. It sounds dumb, I know, like you can't own a sidewalk, but it really felt like mine. I'd memorized every crack in the pavement, every bush that needed trimming, even that ugly mailbox with peeling stickers on Briar Street. It was mine in the sense that no one else was there. Quiet, peaceful, the one place I wasn't expected to do or say anything for anybody. That is, until Marcus showed up. I knew him sort of. Not a friend, but his older brother used to come to the same barbecues as my cousin, so his name floated around sometimes. I never had a reason to talk to him before. He wasn't a bad guy or anything. Just one of those people who always seemed like they were trying to be somewhere else. Kind of forgettable, honestly. Anyway, first time I saw him on the route was near the corner of Oak Ridge and Lyle. I was halfway through mile 2 when I spotted him stretching by the stop sign like he just materialized there. I nodded as I passed, nothing dramatic. He didn't nod back, but whatever. Some runners are weird about acknowledging each other. Next day, same time, same spot. He wasn't stretching this time, though. He was just standing there, messing with his watch. That part stuck with me, because no one stops right at the sidewalk corner just to check their watch. There's a bench 20 feet away. After that, he became a fixture, always showing up right when I reached his house, which sat at the edge of the route. Big yellow place with a crooked basketball hoop and a broken fence slotched on one side. Every single time, he was either standing on his porch or just stepping off of it like we were stincing up without meaning to. At first, I figured it was just bad timing. We probably just had similar habits. But then I started noticing the pattern. He never ran unless I was already running. Like, I'd pass his place and hear footsteps behind me within seconds. And when I'd loop back the long way and come around again, he'd be back near his house, slowing down. One morning, I decided to test it. Left an hour earlier than usual when it was still barely light out. Streets were empty, no one walking their dogs yet, just me and the sound of my own feet. As I reached the block before his, I was sure I'd outpaced whatever weird thing he had going. But as I turned the corner, there he was, tying his shoe at the edge of his driveway like he'd been waiting for the right cue. He didn't run with me, not directly. He'd stay back maybe 20 feet or so, close enough that I could hear his breathing if my music wasn't blasting. But the thing that really got me was his watch. He had one of those digital fitness trackers, the kind with bright screens you can see even in daylight. Every time I passed him, he'd raise his wrist and press something. Not random, not casual, like he was timing something. I tried ignoring it, switched up my music, started skipping the stretch of road where his house sat, even thought about changing routes entirely. But that street was the smoothest part of the run. It felt like giving up my own space just because someone else decided to invade it. So I stuck with it. Then came the updates. I logged my runs through this app. Nothing fancy, just for tracking distance and pace. I liked seeing the little maps and numbers at the end. Made the pain feel worth it. One day, I checked my recent route and noticed a new profile had liked my run. Never happened before. I clicked the name and saw a familiar photo. Marcus, standing on his porch, cropped from the background of someone else's party pic. I didn't even know he used the app. His profile didn't have any public runs except one. Just one. And the route? It was mine. Same time, same street, same everything. But here's the part that messed with me. It only showed activity starting the moment I passed his house. Like he hit start on the tracker when I passed by and ended it when I disappeared around the bend. No warm-up, no cool-down. Just the part where I was present. He never uploaded a run outside of that one. I started keeping notes after that. Just quick stuff in my phone, timestamps, which corners he stood on, whether he ran that day or not. The more I kept track, the more obvious it became that he was sensing himself to me. And not just the run either. I noticed him at the grocery store I always stopped at after. 2 aisles over, browsing nothing. Saw him once at the gas station up the road, leaning against his car, but not filling up. I'd brought it up to my cousin, trying to keep it casual. Said something like, "Is Marcus into running now or what?" And my cousin just shrugged. Said last he heard Marcus hated cardio. Played pickup basketball now and then, but never stuck with anything longer than a week. So why the hell was he doing this? One weekend, I skipped my usual run. Just slept in, let myself be lazy for once. That afternoon, I walked to the corner store to grab some snacks, and guess who was walking down the opposite side of the street? Sweat-soaked shirt, runner's high on his face. Marcus, only this time there was no one he could have been pacing with. That's when I started to think maybe he didn't care about running at all. Maybe it wasn't about fitness or routine. Maybe the only part that mattered to him was matching me. Being right there at the same pace, same time, same route. A couple days later, I looped around early again. Hit a street with no headphones in, just raw silence, letting myself listen. Sure enough, right as I passed his fence, I heard the watch beep behind me, then footsteps. I stopped. First time in weeks I just stopped running mid-route. Turned around. He froze like I caught him doing something illegal. Didn't say anything, just sort of half-laughed and looked down at his shoes. Then he asked me how far I was going today. Not hey or good morning, just that, how far. I didn't answer, just walked past him and went home. I haven't been on that route since. Switched to the trail near the high school where the ground's uneven and there's no sidewalks. It's a worse run. Messes up my ankles sometimes, but I haven't seen Marcus. Not yet. Though the other day I noticed a new profile liked my trail run on the app. No picture this time. No name I recognized. But the route, it started exactly where mine did. You ever wake up to notifications and just know something weird happened? Like before your eyes even adjust, you can feel the chaos through your screen. That's what happened the morning I found out about the profile. It was a regular Saturday. I was planning to stay in, to do laundry, maybe rewatch that cooking show I never finish. But my phone had 17 notifications from some event app I didn't even remember signing up for. At first, I figured it was spam. Then I saw my name. Not just my name, my face. A picture of me from last summer, the one where I'm eating fries on the curb outside a taco truck, looking like I'm talking mid-bite. Not exactly profile material. But there it was, on a page that looked like it belonged to me. Same name, same city, even the nickname only a couple people use. Except I didn't make it. The page said I was into things I've never done in my life. Rock climbing enthusiast. Salsa dancer. Trivia night regular. It even had my favorite food listed as sushi. I don't hate sushi, but I haven't had it in 3 years after a bad gas station mistake. The whole profile read like a version of me that someone wanted to exist. A cooler version. An overscheduled, always smiling version that's allergic to downtime. And whoever made it wasn't just letting it sit. They were using it. There were RSVPs to local events, full-on group activities, silent yoga in the park, film festival meetups, community bike rides. And the comments, that's when I saw her name. Lolly. That wasn't even her real name. Everyone called her Lolly because she used to carry this giant rainbow lollipop around in middle school and never lived it down. We weren't close. She went to my school, floated around different friend groups, always had this sort of side character energy. Harmless. Harmless until now. She was the one tagging me in all the events. Not just tagging, but replying to people's questions like she was my manager. Yep, he'll be there. Or he's super excited about this one. Stuff I never said. Events I never saw. At first, I laughed. Like it was messed up, but also kind of surreal. I even messaged her, thinking it was maybe some weird prank. No reply. Just a heart emoji reaction to my message. The next day, another notification popped up. She posted a photo of my go-to hiking spot, except it was a stock photo of a forest I'd never been to. I started digging, looked through the page's history, the timeline, the posts she tagged me in. She'd been doing this for weeks, maybe longer, posting about my favorite cafes, sharing my playlists, even dropping comments like, he's so passionate about climate justice, under posts about community cleanups. There was a post that said I journaled every night before bed. Another one said I was learning Italian. I wasn't mad at first, more confused. But then people started messaging me. People I barely knew, a guy from my psych class, a girl I met once at a birthday thing, all saying stuff like, hey, are we still on for the film night? Or did you want to carpool to yoga? I didn't even know what film night they meant. I finally saw one of the group pages Lily was tagging me in. She'd invited me to a monthly extrovert potluck and said I was handling dessert. I don't bake. I don't even own a mixer. I showed up just to clear things up, honestly, just tell everyone I wasn't supposed to be there. And she was there, already laughing with people, already acting like I was late. She greeted me like we were best friends, wrapped her arm around me and said something like, he made it. And everyone clapped. I froze. I didn't want to cause a scene, so I just kind of sat down. Ate a cookie someone else made, said I had to leave early. After that, I changed all my passwords, checked every app I could think of. Nothing looked tampered with. She hadn't hacked anything. She just built her own version of me. Out of scraps, out of random photos, old facts, little things I probably said without thinking. She even used a playlist I made years ago that I'd shared once on an old account. I asked someone who been at the potluck if they thought I was acting weird. They said, not really, just quiet. Lily said you're like that around new people. She had explanations for everything. Personality traits I never signed off on. Then came the plans. Every week, she tagged me in something new. Game night at his place. I didn't invite anyone. Brunch squad with my favorite human. I didn't know the people in the photo. Back at it with trivia. I hadn't gone once. I confronted her in person one day after class. Told her it needed to stop. She smiled like I was joking, like we were sharing some inside joke only she was in on. She said, you've been more social lately, it's great. Then she walked away. After that, I got paranoid. Every time someone waved at me on the street, I wondered if they knew me from the real world or from her version of me. Someone asked me how my Italian lessons were going. Someone else told me to try that sushi place I recommended. I stopped posting online, deactivated old accounts, but she didn't stop tagging me. I was still getting notifications. He loved this book, or we're trying this escape room next. I wasn't even surprised when someone knocked on my door one Saturday afternoon holding cupcakes and saying, is this where game night is? I shut the door and sat on the floor for a while after that. Just sat there. Eventually, I made a burner account and started commenting under the fake posts. Just stuff like, this isn't me, or I didn't say that. She deleted them. Every time. Like she was creating a version of me, and I kept messing up the vibe. Then one night, I got a message from someone who said they were in one of her friend circles. They said Lily had a whole system. She introduced people to each other through her version of me. Made connections, scheduled meetups, built entire nights around plans I wasn't part of. People started dating through these hangouts. Someone even started a book club because I recommended it. I wasn't even real to these people. I was a link, a symbol. The worst part, I think some of them liked her version of me better. He showed up. He cared. He made brunch plans. Eventually, she stopped tagging me as much. Moved on to promoting our shared projects. Stuff like working on a community design together or building something beautiful with a friend who gets it. No name, no photo. Just a ghost version of me. Sometimes I wonder if she ever believed any of it, or if it was always a game to her, a project. A way to stitch together a reality that made her feel what? Important, needed. I still get the occasional message from someone saying, hey, haven't seen you around. I just say, yeah, been busy. The first time I met Ben, I wasn't even supposed to be there. My regular gym was getting new flooring or fixing the AC or something dumb like that, so I tried out this smaller one across town with a free trial pass. It was one of those gyms where the equipment still smells like plastic and the smoothie bar is trying way too hard to be trendy. I walked in, signed the waiver, and this guy behind the desk with bleached hair and a grin like he already knew me said, hey, welcome man. That was it. We talked for maybe 30 seconds. He scanned my pass, made some joke about how early it was, and told me the best squat racks were in the back. I nodded, said thanks, then did my workout and bounced. Didn't think about him again. His name was a little tag on his polo shirt. That's how I knew it was Ben. A week later, I'm back at my regular gym with better machines, closer to home, familiar faces. First couple days, nothing weird. Then I show up one morning and guess who's behind the counter? Ben. Same hair, same overexcited face now in my gym. Not just visiting either. He's in uniform, scanning IDs, handing out towels, doing the full staff routine like he's always been there. He sees me coming and goes, "Yo, what's up, man? Like we've been friends forever." I wouldn't even get my card out before he says my name, my full name. Not the version that shows up on my membership either. He uses the short version that only my friends call me. Then he says, "You're good, I already got you." I was mid-swipe and froze. Like, how do you even respond to that? I gave a half smile and just walked in, thinking maybe he was just weirdly good at remembering people. But I had only spoken to him once, at a different gym, for barely half a minute. Next day, same thing. He's already scanning me in before I reached the counter. Doesn't do it for anyone else, just me. It got to the point where I was going out of my way to avoid him. Changed the time I'd show up, started doing night workouts instead of mornings. First couple times, it worked. Some other guy was on shift. But then Ben started popping up during night shifts too. Always cheerful, always acting like we were old buddies. And every time, he'd have something weirdly specific to say. "Leg day again, huh? Respect. Back for the row machine? I saw you killing it last week. You switch up your playlist or something. You were moving faster today." I never told him what I was working on. Never shared what music I was playing. He wasn't even near the machines when I was using them. But somehow he knew. Every time. I figured maybe there were cameras. Maybe he could see the floor from the front desk or had some access I didn't know about. But that didn't explain the stuff he'd say outside the gym. Yeah, he started showing up outside the gym. One night, I went to the late-night diner across the street after a brutal session. Just wanted fries and peace. I'm halfway through my meal, and he walks in like it's just a normal hangout spot. Sees me, waves, and says, "Couldn't sleep either, huh?" Then he sits one booth over and starts scrolling his phone like this is something we do all the time. I didn't say anything, just finished my food and left. But that wasn't the end of it. A couple days later, I get a DM on an account I barely use. It's Ben, saying, "Yo, forgot to ask what per workout you're on. You had energy today." I never gave him my social. Never mentioned it. Not to anyone. I didn't even follow the gym on there. Now I was starting to get paranoid. I checked my privacy settings, locked everything down, even changed my username. But he still found me again on another account, sent me a playlist, said it reminded him of my vibe. It was a mix of songs I actually listened to. Some I played the last time I was lifting, same order. How would he even know that? At this point, I started skipping the gym altogether. Took a break for a couple weeks, started running outside, doing stuff at home. Thought maybe that would shake it. But then one day, walking back from a run, I pass this convenience store and see Ben coming out with an energy drink. He sees me and grins like we just bumped into each other at a party. "You back in the zone, huh? I figured you'd be out running around this time." He said it so casually, like he expected me there, like he timed it. Next day, I checked the gym's site. It posted a new promo video for the facility. Some standard stuff. Equipment shots, happy members, wide-angle views. Ben's in it, of course. But what caught me off guard was the B-roll. In the background of one shot, there I was, running on a treadmill from weeks ago, not looking at the camera, just doing my workout. But the focus lingered on me for a few seconds longer than anything else. I emailed the gym about it, asked if I could be removed from the video. They said the footage was public and taken during open hours, so they weren't required to get individual permission. Basically, tough luck. Ben was in the comments replying to people asking about memberships. Super friendly, super helpful. Then someone said, "Great video. Who's the guy on the treadmill at 042? Looks intense." And Ben responded, "That's one of our regulars. Solid guy." No name, just that. It freaked me out more than if he had used my name. I blocked him on socials, stopped responding to his messages, started going to a different gym on the other side of town, told myself it was over. But about a week into my new routine, the front desk guy stops me and says, "Hey, just FYI, we got a new trainer shadowing this week." You already know who it was. Ben. wearing a polo with a different logo, same wide grin, standing by the dumbbells like he'd always been there. He walked over and said, "Man, you found this place too. That's wild." I didn't say anything, just left. Haven't been back to any gym since, just home workouts, solo runs, trying to keep to myself. I still don't know how he found the new place. Maybe it was a guess. Maybe he followed me. Maybe he just has some weird sixth sense for where I'll end up next. But last night, I got a new message. No name, just a phone number I didn't recognize. It said, "Miss seeing you around. Still working on back and shoulders." This all starts because I ordered socks. Dumb, I know, but that's what kicked it off. Just some basic black ankle socks off a discount site. Nothing fancy, just needed new ones because my old ones kept disappearing in the wash like they had plans. The order said it'd arrive in 3 to 5 business days. Nothing special. But it showed up next day. And with it, Lucas. He knocked once, which was already strange because usually delivery people don't knock anymore. They drop the package and dip. But he stood there like he was waiting to hand it off in person. I opened the door and he smiled like we were old classmates. Not in a pushy way, just overly familiar, like we were supposed to know each other. He said, "Got your socks." I thought maybe he worked for a local courier service. Maybe the site contracted them or something. Didn't think much of it. Took the box, said thanks, and went back inside. 15 minutes later, I got a message on this random delivery app I didn't remember downloading. Said, "Package delivered by Lucas. Let us know how your handoff went," with a little picture of his face. I almost deleted the app then, but I figured whatever. Just another over-involved company trying to get reviews. Then the next package came. I'd ordered protein powder, expected it through regular mail. But again, Lucas, same knock, same smile, same message afterward. "Hope the gym's going well. Enjoy the mix." I didn't put anything about the gym on that order, and that's when I started paying attention. He kept showing up. Didn't matter what I ordered or where it came from. Online bookstore. Lucas. Small electronics store. Lucas. Random skincare my cousin told me to try. Lucas. Every single package. He always knew what it was too. Not just from reading the label. He'd mention stuff like, "This is the second charger you've gotten this month, right? Or different flavor than last time. Hope you like it." And it wasn't just surface level. He remembered stuff. Even things I forgot I'd ordered. At first, I thought maybe he had access to my purchase history or something. Like some weird centralized courier tracking thing. But he started going beyond that. Way beyond. One morning, I stepped out of the shower and checked my phone. There was a message notification from the delivery app. "Good time to leave a package. Glad I didn't knock. Didn't want to interrupt the steam." I stood there dripping in a towel just staring at that sentence. I opened the door. No one was there, but sure enough, a package was sitting perfectly centered on my welcome mat. That was when it hit me. This wasn't about deliveries. I checked my front window. No cameras nearby. Nothing in the hallway. My unit's kind of tucked into the corner, so I always assumed I had more privacy than the average apartment. I never thought someone would actually be watching. Next time I ordered something, I chose a completely different name at checkout, just to test it. Picked the name Kyle, set the delivery instructions to leave it at the leasing office. Still showed up at my door. Still handed to me by Lucas. "You must be Kyle this week," he said, laughing like it was our little joke. I tried to confront him once. I said, "How are you getting these orders? Why is it always you?" He just smiled again and said, "I take pride in consistency." Like that was supposed to explain anything. After that, I tried having stuff sent to my friend's place. Told her to text me when they arrived. A week went by. Nothing strange. Then she said a delivery guy dropped it off and seemed super friendly. Even asked if she wanted him to carry it inside. I asked her to describe him. Tall, kind of tan, blondish hair. Had a badge that said Lucas. He found her place. A different address. Different name. Different phone number on file. I stopped ordering things. Went 2 weeks without buying a single thing online. Then packages started showing up anyway. Stuff I didn't order. A new mug that said, "You got great taste." A hoodie in my size with my college name on it. The old one I haven't worn in years. A framed photo of a beach I went to as a kid. all with handwritten notes taped to the box, always signed L. I stopped answering the door, just let the knocks happen and waited for him to leave. But he didn't always knock. Sometimes the box would just appear. Once I found it already inside my apartment, not in the hallway, but sitting on my kitchen counter. That's when I checked the locks, changed them, told the building manager, asked if they gave access to delivery people. They said no, told me Lucas didn't even work for them. That same night, I found another message, this time not from the delivery app. It was a text. No name, no profile photo. Everything's always where it needs to be. No need to stress. I stopped sleeping well after that. I started checking behind curtains, double-checking closets. Started walking around with a kitchen knife tucked in my hoodie pocket. I put up a cheap camera outside of my front door. It caught motion once around 3 a.m., but the footage was corrupted when I tried to watch it. Glitched out and froze halfway through. I stopped telling people. Every time I brought it up, they'd laugh or say it sounded fake. Dude, he probably just works the delivery beat in your area, or maybe he's just being nice. But the messages kept coming. Not every day. That would have been easier somehow. They came when I least expected them. Long night? You've been cooking a lot of pasta lately. Still using that same playlist? The two moving. Always casual, never threatening, like he was trying to be helpful. That made it worse. One day I got a message that said, rest day today. Good call. I hadn't told anyone I was skipping my run. I'd barely even decided it myself, but somehow he knew. Then came the shower thing again. I just stepped out and my phone buzzed. You used the citrus body wash again. Smells sharp. That was it. No more pretending. I packed a duffel, left town for a few days. Stayed with an old friend an hour away. Didn't bring my usual stuff. Didn't tell anyone where I went. I thought that would be enough. It wasn't. On the second night there, her doorbell rang around 7 p.m. She said a guy dropped off a box addressed to me. No return address. Inside was a single energy bar and a note. Don't forget to refuel. I've been living out of motels since. Different place every few days. No online orders. No real name. I use cash for everything. But sometimes I still get messages, always from random numbers. Always with the same tone. Nice view from room 204. Rainy day. Hope you packed a jacket. Your left shoe's starting to wear out. Time for new ones? No threads. No demands. Just updates. There's this girl named Olivia who always talks like she's known you forever. She doesn't ease into conversations. She dives right in, like picking up in the middle of the sentence you didn't start. First time we spoke was after a lecture. We weren't in the same class. She just kind of showed up at the exit doors, walking next to me like we were heading the same way. I thought maybe she was trying to flirt or ask for directions, but she started talking about the weather. Not small talk, more like an analysis. This kind of humidity always makes people edgy, she said. I just nodded. That would have been the end of it, but she kept showing up after that. In different spots around campus, outside the food court, by the vending machines, near the rec center. She never acted like it was weird. Always smiled, always had something random to say like we were continuing an ongoing chat. What threw me off wasn't just the frequency. It was the way she mentioned things about me that I never told her. Small at first, like knowing I don't drink coffee or that I skip breakfast. I figured maybe she saw me around and picked it up. People notice habits, right? I didn't stress. But then she brought up my mom. I was sitting on a bench outside the library, scrolling through my phone, waiting for a ride. She came out of nowhere, sat next to me like it was her spot. No hello or anything, just leaned back and said, "Is your mom still working nights?" I remember just blinking at her, trying to process what she said. I never talked about my mom on campus, not to anyone. I don't even post about her online. She works security at a warehouse. Not exactly something that comes up in conversation, especially not with someone I've never shared more than a few awkward run-ins with. I asked how she knew that. She smiled and said, "You mentioned it once." But I didn't. I would have remembered saying something like that. I thought maybe she confused me with someone else. Happens. But then she started naming places. Asked if I'd visited my cousin in Denton last weekend. I don't even think I've mentioned Denton in passing, ever. It's not a place I post about. And the only people who know my cousin lives there are, like, 5 people I trust. So I straight up asked her, "Who told you that?" Still smiling, she just shrugged and said she keeps track of people she cares about. Like that explained anything. I started avoiding her after that. Took different exits from class, changed where I parked. She still found me. Always acted like she hadn't seen me in forever, like each time was some surprise reunion. One day, she came up behind me in the bookstore and tapped my shoulder. I turned around, and before I could even say anything, she said, "How's your brother doing? Still trying to get into trade school?" That's when I really froze, because I barely talked to my brother myself, and I definitely didn't mention anything about trade school to anyone. I walked away without saying anything. She didn't follow, just called out, "Tell him good luck." That night, I called my brother, told him to keep his socials private. He asked why, and I just said there's this girl being weird. He laughed it off, but I could tell he was creeped out too. I started locking down my accounts, cleaning up anything that mentioned family or locations. Even went through old posts, deleted photos with captions that named towns or relatives. I wanted to believe she just dug through my online stuff and pieced it together somehow. That would have been creepy, sure, but it still made more sense than the alternative, that she had some other way of knowing. But then she asked about my dad, and I knew for sure it wasn't just digital stalking. We were walking into a lecture hall. I hadn't seen her all week, and she was suddenly right next to me, walking in step. She said, "Your dad's the one with the knee thing, right? Does he still do that yard work even though the doctor told him not to?" There's no record of my dad online. He's not even on Facebook. He doesn't post anything, doesn't comment on stuff. The only people who know about the knee thing are family and maybe one or two neighbors back home. Not even friends here know that. I hadn't even talked to my dad in a few days, so her to casually mention it like it was a shared memory, that felt like a punch. After class, I sat in my car for a while, not starting it, just thinking, trying to remember every interaction I ever had with her. If there was some moment I slipped up, but I never told her any of this stuff, not even close. And it wasn't just family. She started bringing up little moments, personal ones, like how I used to sneak food upstairs at night when I was younger, or how I used to draw comics and hide them in a shoebox under my bed, stuff no one here could have ever known. I started testing her, saying stuff to throw her off. Made up stories about my uncle in Florida, said I had a pet snake as a kid. She never corrected me, just smiled and nodded like she was humoring me. The next time I saw her, she handed me a book. Said she thought of me when she read it. It was some memoir about complicated families and growing up in small towns. She even bookmarked a page and wrote, "This part reminded me of your sister." I don't even have a sister. When I told her that, she just looked confused. Said, "You did, for a little while." That's when I felt something I don't think I felt before. Like she wasn't confused. Like I was. Like she remembered something I didn't. And I hated that feeling. I started keeping distance, like real distance. Left early from lectures, skipped places I usually went. She still popped up sometimes. At first I ignored her, but she never acted offended. Always had that same soft smile, like she was waiting for me to stop pretending. Then one day she left me a note, just slid it into my backpack during class or something. I found it later when I got home. All it said was, "Tell your mom I'm proud of her for sticking with it. She's trying so hard." That was the day I stopped going to that campus. I finished the semester online, told the school I needed flexibility for family reasons, which felt grimly accurate in a way I didn't want to think about. I never blocked her, but she stopped reaching out. No messages, no comments, just quiet. But I still think about it every time I hear someone say my name and I don't recognize the voice. The weird part is she never asked me anything about her. She never talked about her life. No oversharing, no slip-ups. Just questions about mine, comments about my people, observations about things I thought no one saw. She was always looking inward, like I was some kind of story she was trying to finish. I'm not someone who goes out a lot. Not because I hate people or anything dramatic. I just don't always like being around a bunch of noise when I could be chilling somewhere quiet. But every once in a while, I'll say yes to stuff. Birthdays, small shows, game nights. Sometimes I'll click going on a Facebook invite just to be polite, knowing full well I'm not pulling up. I do that thing where I say I'll come and then cancel last second when I realize I don't actually want to leave the house. Most people do that. It's normal. That's why it took me a while to even notice Noah. He started showing up a couple months ago. First time was at this backyard party for one of my coworkers. The kind where there's a cooler full of warm soda and someone's burning frozen burgers on a grill that hasn't been cleaned in 3 summers. I showed up late, kind of hung toward the back, popped to people I already knew. Then this guy walks past me and says, "Hey, glad you made it." I nodded, didn't think much of it. Thought maybe he was a friend of a friend. We didn't talk again that night. Next weekend, I said I was going to this indie book fair. Another maybe I'll show up kind of thing. I RSVP'd but didn't make any solid plans. I ended up going just to walk around. Figured I'd grab a coffee and dip. 10 minutes in, I see the same guy, Noah, flipping through a book near the poetry table. He caught my eye and said, "You again," like it was a funny coincidence. I gave a half smile and moved on. Still didn't feel weird, just kinda odd. The next one was a friend's open mic night at this tiny cafe with folding chairs and bad acoustics. I had marked myself as interested on the event page. Not going. Didn't share it, didn't comment. Just clicked the thing and forgot about it. I went alone, and Noah was there, sitting 2 rows ahead of me. He turned around once, said, "Didn't know you liked stuff like this." I didn't respond, just laughed a little. After that, I started paying attention. Every single event I said I might attend, even the ones I backed out of, he showed up. Even canceled ones. Yeah. There was this local art show I was planning to check out. Said I'd go, changed my mind an hour before. Didn't even leave the house. I get a text from a friend later saying, "Didn't see you at the show. Your friend Noah was asking where you were." I never introduced him to anyone. He wasn't invited to these things by me. He was just there. Every time. I started asking around. No one else really knew of him. A few people assumed he was part of someone else's group. My friend Jamie thought he was that guy from the gym, but couldn't say for sure. Another person said maybe he worked at a nearby bookstore, but when I checked, no one there knew a Noah. It was like he just existed at events. I stopped RSVPing to things. Started leaving everything blank. If someone texted me directly, I'd go, but I didn't click anything online. Still didn't help. He showed up to a trivia night I only mentioned once in a group chat with 3 people. No post, no RSVP, just a, "Hey, might swing by trivia later." And he was there. Not across the room, not hanging in the back, next to me at the bar. He ordered the same drink I did, then asked how my weekend was. Like we were old friends. I started getting that tight feeling in my chest whenever I left the house. Not because I thought he'd hurt me. He wasn't threatening, but because it felt like I was being studied. Followed without footsteps. He was always 1 room away, 1 table over, always showing up without a reason that made sense. Once I skipped an event I was excited about just because I knew he'd be there. I stayed in and tried not to check the event page afterward, but I did. There he was, in a group photo, smiling like he belonged. I read through my settings, turned off all event sharing, started using private messages only, even changed my account name on some platforms, thinking maybe he was using tracking tools or scraping data somehow. Then came the final straw. There was a small house party, real private, not online, no posts, no invite pages, just word of mouth. I got the address from a friend who said it was invite only. I didn't tell anyone I was going. I show up, and within 10 minutes, Noah walks through the front door holding a drink like he's been there all night. He sees me and lights up, says he you'd make it. That night, I didn't stay long. I went out back, sat on the porch steps for a while. Didn't feel like going back in. After maybe 15 minutes, he stepped out too. Sat a few steps above me. Didn't say anything for a while. Then he goes, "You always look like you're about to leave." I asked him how he knew I'd be there, straight up. He looked at me, dead calm, and said I'd just follow what matters. Then he went back inside. No smirk. No joke. Just said it like it was a fact. I left. After that, I made a new rule. If I even think you might show up somewhere, I don't go. Doesn't matter what the event is. Birthday. No. Show. Not worth it. I went full ghost mode for a while. No posts. No mentions. I stopped answering DMs from people I didn't recognize. Even made a burner account to message friends. But one day I slip up. I respond maybe to this casual outdoor hang. Just a chill thing. Low key. My friend messages me later and says, "Hey, your buddy Noah already got here." I said, "He's not my buddy." She just replied with a thumbs up. I never showed. A week later, I get an email. No name, no subject line, just one sentence. "You don't have to pretend you're not coming. I'll wait either way." There's this woman named Sarah who keeps saying we're neighbors. Like not just casual neighbors, but close neighbors. Says it like we share a fence and grill together on weekends. She says it with this easy confidence that makes it hard to correct her because she sounds so sure. But she doesn't live on my street. Not even close. She lives 3 streets over on the other side of the main intersection where the houses switch from compact driveways to long gravel ones and half the mailboxes are duct taped shut. We don't share a street name. We don't share a trash pickup day. We don't share anything. The only reason I even know who she is because she kept walking by my house. I noticed her the first few times because she had this neon orange hoodie and walked like she was trying to get somewhere but couldn't remember where. Same time every morning, always slow at first, and speeding up when she passed the house, like she was timing it. The first time she talked to me, I was on the porch fixing this busted chair leg that's been crooked since I moved in. She waved and said, "You're always up early like me." Gotta love that sunrise air, right? And I didn't even look at the sky, I just nodded. I didn't know who she was or why she was talking to me, like we were already halfway through a conversation, but I figured whatever, people talk sometimes. She passed again the next day. Same hoodie, same time. This time she said, "Saw your porch light was still on around 1 last night. Couldn't sleep either." That made me pause. There's no good reason she'd know when my porch light's on. It's one of those motion sensor lights that kicks on if a car goes by or a cat walks through the yard. I hadn't even been outside the night before. I asked her how she knew, and she just shrugged and said, "I'm a light sleeper. I always notice little stuff like that." Right. The third time she walked by, she said something like, "Your AC unit is loud at night, huh?" And I didn't say anything because I honestly couldn't tell if that was a complaint or an observation. It wasn't loud to me. But I guess if you're standing near my bedroom window at night, maybe it is. That's when I started closing the blinds tighter, locking the side gate, watching who walked by more often. I got curious and checked the address she gave someone when they asked where she lived. Birch Grove. That's not my street. It's not even visible from my street unless you walk out to the end and look across 2 intersections. It's far enough that if your dog ran away over there, you'd be calling it lost. And yet she keeps saying things like, "Us close neighbors gotta stick together," and I always tell people we got the safest corner in the area. We. I never invited her into anything. Never gave her my number. Never told her my name. But she uses it, says it casually when we cross paths. Once she said, "Don't work too hard, man," as I was hauling bags into the car. Another time she said, "Hope you got some rest. You looked tired yesterday." I hadn't even seen her the day before. And then she said something that made me stop dead in my tracks. I was out front just pulling weeds, not thinking about anything, and she walks by and says, "You fall asleep with your light on a lot, huh?" I asked her what she meant. She said, "Your room light. The one in the corner. You had it on all night Monday. I could tell you knocked out without turning it off. Happens to me too sometimes." That room is on the 2nd floor. Curtains closed. You can't see in unless you're literally standing right outside the window or looking from an angle nobody should be standing at. There's no line of sight from the street. Not even from across the street. You have to be in the backyard or watching from somewhere specific. So I started testing things. Left lights on at weird times. Opened and closed the blinds at random. One night, I set an alarm for 3 a.m. just to turn on the hallway light for 5 minutes and turn it back off. 2 days later, she passed by and said, "You've been moving around more at night lately. Everything good?" It's like she was keeping a log. I didn't respond, just stared at her. She didn't act embarrassed or like she misspoke. She just smiled and kept walking. I told one of my friends about it. He said she was probably lonely. Said maybe she just talks like that to feel connected. But this wasn't small talk. She wasn't guessing. She knew things. She started making comments about stuff no one should notice. "Did you fix that outlet in your kitchen?" I saw it flickering, stopped. "There's no window into my kitchen from the front of the house." I never posted about it. I hadn't even mentioned it to anyone. She once asked if I still sleep on the left side of my bed. That's not a neighbor thing. That's not something you figure out from watching someone mow the lawn. One day I waited outside. No headphones, no phone. Just sat on the porch and waited. She came by at the usual time. When she saw me just sitting there, she paused and said, "Taking a break today?" I said yeah, and asked her straight up how she knew so much about me. She looked like she didn't understand the question. Then she said, "You said I was one of the few people paying attention." I never said that, never even implied it. Then she said, "It's not like I'm a stranger. I'm your neighbor." That was the part that stuck with me. She said it like a fact. Like that word gave her access to stuff. Like that label meant she was allowed to keep track of my habits, my lights, my sleep schedule, and my bedroom window. I started keeping the blinds closed all day. Bought thicker ones. Got a security cam pointed toward the street. Started parking around the corner just to switch things up. She still waved when she saw me. Still dropped comments like we had some inside joke. Last week she said, "Been quieter over there lately. You sleeping better?" And I said nothing. She doesn't seem to notice that I've stopped responding. Or maybe she does and just doesn't care. She keeps walking by like it's her route. Keeps acting like we're in the same bubble. Like proximity, even fake proximity, makes her part of my routine. But I don't know her. Not really. I don't know if she's harmless or bored, or just good at pretending she belongs in people's lives. I don't know what her house looks like, or who she lives with, or if she's watching other people too. All I know is she shows up. She knows when I go to sleep. And she keeps saying we're neighbors like that makes it fine. All right, let me try to explain Grace in the simplest way. She acts like my personal security guard, except I never hired her, and she only ever warns me about completely normal people who happen to exist anywhere near me. She's not intimidating or tough or anything. She's just always there, showing up with that concerned face and that same weird line, "I just want to keep you safe." And if someone says that once, you're like, "Cool, thanks." But if they say it every single time you see them, you start wondering where they're getting their information, or if they're just making half of it up. The way I met her wasn't dramatic at all. It happened at a grocery store on a Wednesday when the place was half empty, and I only went in because I forgot bread. I'm waiting in line with my loaf and a bag of chips, and this woman in a denim jacket taps my shoulder. She says, "Just so you know, the guy behind you has been staring at your back pocket since the dairy aisle." I look around, and the guy is literally scrolling his phone, not even facing me. So I say, "Are you sure?" And she just nods real serious like she's a detective solving a case. I shrugged it off. Paid for my stuff. Went home. Thought maybe she got me confused with someone else or maybe she just likes drama. Then I saw her again 2 days later. This time I'm outside the bank getting out of my car and she steps up like we're best friends reunited. She goes, "You should watch out for that teller inside. He was fired from his last branch for taking screenshots of people's cards." I asked how she knew that and she said it in that same tone like, "Don't worry about it. I know things." So I go inside anyway, and the teller is just some exhausted dude with a cold who barely looks up from his computer. Nothing suspicious at all. That's how it started. Every random place I went, Grace somehow appeared. Always with a new warning. It didn't matter where I was. Walking to class. The girl in the hoodie has been trailing you since the corner. At the gas station. The driver in pump 3 keeps looking at your tires like he's planning something. At a fast food drive-thru. That employee hates when people order combos. Be careful. I don't even know how someone's supposed to be careful about ordering food wrong. Half the stuff she says sounds like she watched too many crime documentaries and decided the world is one big suspicious look away from falling apart. For a while, I tried to be polite about it. Nodded, said thanks. Pretended I appreciated her enthusiasm. But then she stopped acting like she was warning me about strangers and more like she was tracking specific people. One day, she caught me right outside my own place, like she was waiting. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed like she'd been rehearsing the line. "Your neighbor across the street tried to peek at your mail when you were gone. I saw him walk over and look for a second. I looked across and the guy is literally watering his plants, not even touching my mailbox." She insisted she saw him. Insisted he had that look in his eyes. I don't even know what that means. Then she started telling me where I shouldn't go, like she got a little schedule of my life. "Don't go to the gym today. There's a guy there who's planning something. Skip the bus this afternoon. One of the drivers is new and sketchy." I wouldn't trust the cafeteria workers this week. I asked her once why she only warned me. There are plenty of other people around, but she always marches up to me like I'm the only target in her imaginary spy mission. She smiled and said, some people just need protection more than others, like there was some deeper reason she wasn't explaining. I wanted to tell her to stop, but every time I built up the courage, she dropped something that almost sounded real. Stuff that made me think maybe she wasn't just guessing. Like she somehow knew I had changed my lock. She mentioned it casually. Good call on fixing that lock. The old one seemed too easy to mess with. I had never told anyone about the lock, and she didn't see me carry anything inside either. Then she referenced my car alarm starting to glitch before I even noticed it. That one made me pause. How would she know about that before I did? Then there was the time she warned me about someone I actually knew. I was talking to my friend at a coffee shop, just chilling, nothing serious. When he went to the restroom, she slid into his seat like she'd been hiding under the table waiting for her cue. She said, he's not good for you. He's hiding something. I asked what she meant, and she said, he only calls you when he wants something. Which was partly true. But the way she said it wasn't like a guess. It was like she'd been listening to my whole friendship history. She leapt so fast after that, like she didn't want me to ask questions. Eventually, I started checking over my shoulder every time I went anywhere. Not for danger, but for her. Because she popped up so often, part of me started thinking she was the one actually doing the watching. She always showed up first. Always located me before I spotted her. Always stepped into my path like she'd been following just far enough behind to stay unnoticed. Once I tested it, I left my house at a weird hour with no pattern, like not morning, not evening, just random. Went to this tiny discount store on the edge of town. Barely anyone there. And as I reached for a pack of gum, I heard, careful. The guy stocking shelves knows too much about people. I dropped the gum and just stared. She was leaning against a rack of greeting cards like she teleported in. I told her flat out, there is nothing wrong with that guy. She immediately pointed out that he didn't have a name tag and said that means something. I think he just forgot it in the break room. She always has these rules in her head about what makes a person dangerous. Too many keys. Untrustworthy. Smiles too much. Fake. Doesn't smile enough. Angry inside. Looks at you. Threat. Doesn't look at you. Hiding something. She even warned me about an elderly woman once. Said she gave off a weird energy. The lady was just trying to find cereal. It all came to a head when she stepped into my driveway to stop me before I got into my car. She said, you can't go where you're going. Someone there isn't who they say they are. I hadn't told anyone where I was going. Not posted it. Not mentioned it. Nothing. But she knew I had plans. Knew the exact time I was leaving. Knew enough to show up right before I opened my car door. I asked her how she knew that. Like actually demanded an answer. She hesitated. That was the first time she looked unsure. Then she just said, I pay attention. That's what safe people do. I told her it's not her job to keep me safe. She just shook her head. If I don't, who will? And then she walked away like she was offended I didn't trust her. Since then, she hasn't stopped. She keeps popping up with new warnings, always about other people. Never about herself. Never about anything she does. She says she's protecting me from strangers, but she's the only one who constantly knows where I am, who I'm with, what I'm doing, what time I leave, what time I get home. I think she wants me to rely on her. To believe everything out there is a threat except her. That's how it feels now, like she's building a bubble around me, one red flag at a time. And here's the messed up part. Even though I know she's wrong about these strangers, sometimes her voice gets in my head. Sometimes I look at someone too long in a store and start wondering what she'd say about them. Sometimes I second guess hanging out with people I've known for years. She made normal life feel like a lineup of suspects. I'm starting to think the only person I should have been careful around this whole time is Grace. There's always that one guy who acts like he's doing you a favor while somehow making your life way more complicated than before. In my case, that guy is Mark. And look, I didn't even know his name at first. He wasn't a friend. Not someone I trusted. He was just some dude in line behind me at the campus cafe while I was having a meltdown over my phone glitching out. The screen had gone black mid-text, and it wouldn't restart. I tried every random trick the internet suggested, and nothing worked. I probably looked stressed because I had this whole assignment that I needed notes from the phone for. I muttered something like, great, awesome, love this for me, out loud without realizing. That's when Mark leaned forward and said, Dead phone. I'm kinda good with tech. I can fix it. Normally, I wouldn't hand my phone to a stranger, but the frustration and the moment got to me, and he looked so confident. Not overconfident, just like this was something he did all the time. So I let him take a look. He tapped the screen twice, held the button combo I didn't know existed, and bam, my phone lit up again. It wasn't magical or anything. Probably a basic move I just didn't know. But he saved me from my own panic, so I thanked him. That's all it was. One thank you. One moment. He smiled and said, "No worries. Glad to help." And that should have been the end of it. I never even got my coffee because I rushed to get to class. Didn't think I'd ever see him again. Except I did, a lot. Next day, I'm walking out of the library and someone calls me, so my phone rings. And right as I pick up, Mark appears from behind one of the stacks like he was waiting for the exact ringtone. He waves at me like we're old friends and just stands there watching me talk. Not at a normal distance either, just close enough to make me speed up the conversation. Another time I was sitting outside eating lunch and someone FaceTimed me. My phone made this loud ringing noise, and before I could even answer, Mark slid into the seat across from me. He said, "Thought I heard your phone. Needed any help with it again?" I told him it was fine. He still stayed until I finished the call. The weirdest part wasn't that he kept showing up. It was that he always showed up right when the phone rang. Not before. Not after. Only during the ring, like the sound was some kind of alert for him. Next incident, the grocery store. My phone buzzed and I swiped to answer while grabbing eggs. Out of nowhere, Mark comes jogging from the bakery section, looking winded like he sprinted over. He leaned against the cooler and said, "Oh good, it's still working." I didn't even remember telling him which grocery store I used, but there he was. After that, I tested it. If I silenced the phone before it rang, he wouldn't show. But if the ringtone got even half a second out into the air, boom, there he'd be. Like my phone was a dog whistle tuned specifically to Mark. One time I thought I lost him for real. I was visiting my cousin on the other side of town. Completely different area, nowhere near campus or my usual hangouts. I put my phone on silent all day. It felt like a freedom I didn't know I needed. My cousin was laughing at how relieved I looked. Then, as we were leaving a restaurant, I forgot and turned the ringer on before ordering a ride home. Phone rings, and who do I see sitting on a bench across the street? Mark. He got up, waved both arms in the air like he just spotted family returning from war. I was so stunned I stared at him for a full 5 seconds before pretending I didn't hear him and ducking into the car. After that, it was impossible to believe coincidence. There's no way someone randomly appears every single time a phone rings unless they're tracking it or listening. But how? He only touched my phone once, and that was right after it blacked out. Could he have done something then? Installed an app? Some spyware? I checked every setting I could find, but I don't know what any of it means. And nothing on the screen said, "Creepy dude monitoring system" on, but I couldn't shake the idea. The worst part happened at home. My place isn't a spot people just randomly walk past. You have to take a turn you only take if you live here or you're visiting someone specific. I was laying on the couch and someone called. Before I could even sit up, there was a knock on my door. I froze. I didn't even check who it was. I just waited, hoping it was a package or someone lost. Then a voice said, "Hey, wanting to check the battery? Saw that it's powering down slower today." It was Mark. He was in my house. I didn't answer. Didn't move until he left. When I checked the peephole later, he was gone. But that was the moment I realized how far this had gone. He told someone we were close. Said he looks out for me. Told a barista that my friend relies on me to keep his phone running smooth. He made it sound like I needed him, like he was part of my routine, like my phone ringing meant I required assistance. And now I'm paranoid every time my screen lights up. If I hear the ringtone at full volume, my stomach drops. I stopped answering half my calls because I'm too busy scanning the room to see if Mark is already there. I switched phones. Brand new one. Different brand and everything. Kept the number though. Stupid decision that was. First call, I get on the new phone. Guess who's walking out of the gas station I'm in? Mark. He taps the side of my phone and says, "Upgraded, nice. Need help setting the notifications." I wanted to throw the phone in the trash can and run. Now I keep it on silent basically 24/7. Friends complain that I never answer, but I'd rather deal with that than deal with Mark appearing like a ringtone summons him out of thin air. Sometimes I swear I see him waiting before the ring even comes, like he's anticipating it. like he already knows who's calling and when. Last week, I muted the phone at home and left it across the room. It buzzed on silent, not a single sound out loud, and there was a soft knock on the door. Just two gentle taps. Then his voice through the wood. "Hey, just checking if everything's still working in there." No ringtone, no alert, but he knew. That's when I realized this isn't about the phone at all, it's about me. The phone just makes it easier for him to track when I'm accessible. I don't know what he wants. I just know he'll be there when the phone rings. There are some people who pick up things from you because they admire your style or whatever. Like a friend sees your shoes and buys their own pair. Normal. But then there's Isabella. She doesn't copy. She duplicates. Exact match. Timeline perfect. Like she's building a second version of me without asking if that's okay. I met her when I just moved into my current place. My apartment complex is basic. Beige walls inside, white walls outside. Laundry machines that eat quarters. Parking lot that's basically a pop-hole museum. When I moved in, I didn't expect to make friends or anything. I figured everyone kept to themselves. Then Isabella knocked on my door the first night I was unpacking. Said she needed a charger because hers broke. She was smiling like she already knew I'd say yes, and she stood in the doorway looking over my shoulder while I grabbed the charger from the counter. She said, "Wow, I love your floor lamp." It was just a cheap one from the local store. Nothing special. I handed her the charger. She said thanks and walked back to her apartment down the hall. Next day at the mailboxes, she waves and tells me she bought the same lamp. Not a similar one. The exact one. She even said the aisle number she found it in. I kind of laughed thinking she was joking or exaggerating. People say weird stuff sometimes. Then later that week, she invites me to come see how it looks in her place. I step inside and freeze because there it is. Same height, same shade color, same bold glow. She says, "See, your lamp gave me the idea." And she's so casual about it that I don't know what to say. It didn't hit me how weird it was yet. I thought maybe she just needed inspiration for decorating, but then it escalated. Fast. Like when she asked what kind of mattress I had, I thought she was making conversation, but the next time I stopped by, she had the same mattress. The exact same comforter, too, which I never even mentioned. It's navy blue with these little geometric shapes at the edge. She pointed at it and said, "See, I like the pattern on yours." That's when I started noticing how often she stared around my place when she came by. Her eyes would go straight to whatever I set down, whatever I hung up, whatever I bought that week. Once she pointed at my tiny fake plant on a shelf and said, "That's so cute." The next day she asked where I got it. By the weekend, she had not one but three arranged the exact same way. I didn't know how to handle it. It felt rude to say anything, so I laughed it off every time while my brain was screaming something is not right. The creepiest moment happened after I got a rug. I'd spent weeks picking one because my floors are boring and echoey. Finally found one with this unique pattern, kind of messy zigzags. Carried it up 3 flights of stairs like an idiot. Rolled it out and loved it. 2 days later, Isabella knocks. Says she wants help moving something. I go into her living room. The rug is there. Same rug, same zigzags, same size. Trim lined up in the same direction as mine. She even put her couch on top of it, angled the way I angled mine. I tried to joke like, "Wow, okay, so we're matching now." She just smiled and said, "I knew you'd like it." That statement stuck with me. She didn't say she liked it. She said she knew I'd like it. Like my approval mattered more than her own sense of taste. Then it got even weirder. One night I'm rearranging my shelves because I got sick of how everything looked. Next afternoon she knocks and invites me over, saying she changed some things too. I step in and almost laugh out loud from shock. She moved her shelves the exact way I moved mine. Same order. Same height shift. Same DVD placed on the end as a bookend. I asked her how she knew I moved mine like that. She said, "Oh, I guessed." Good guess, right? She always has some quick excuse like that, but it's not guessing when it's perfect. I tested it. I put a ceramic bowl on my coffee table that had been in a cabinet for months. Nothing fancy, just a bowl with a weird Levin print on it my aunt gave me. I leave it there overnight. Next day she drops by to return my mail that accidentally got to her box. And she points into her place where she left her door open and says, "Look, I got a bowl too." Same fruit pattern. She hadn't had it before. It wasn't there last week. But suddenly she had it like it was a random coincidence. Then came the scariest detail. Something I didn't speak out loud. Something I only thought about. My bedroom. I keep my door closed whenever she's over, because it feels too personal. But last month, while cleaning, I decided to move my bed under the window instead of the wall. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't post about it. Didn't even mention it in a phone call. Just moved it. 2 days later, she texts me saying she rearranged her room and wanted me to see. I walk in and her bed is under her window now. Same direction. Same nightstand placement. Same lamp position. And she looks at me for my reaction like she's expecting me to be impressed. That was the moment I realized she was tracking everything. Maybe through the walls. Maybe when I left the door cracked that one time. Maybe she's been in here without me knowing. The thought made my chest tighten. So I tried changing things faster. I moved the couch overnight and shoved the dresser into a corner. I hid smaller items in random places, but she kept up. Like she was watching me constantly and waiting to duplicate every single move. I stopped letting her in. Told her I was overwhelmed. I said I needed a week of privacy to study. She nodded, but her smile didn't move. It was like a sticker someone slapped on her face. She still tried, though. Kept asking what about that day. Kept casually questioning where I put something. Kept fishing for updates. Then last week, while taking out trash, I passed her door and saw it was wide open. Inside, I saw something that made me stop breathing. Her kitchen table. Same exact one as mine. And chairs. Dish rack. Same magnets on the fridge. Same water filter in the same place. My eyes kept jumping around her apartment, and everything I saw looked like my place duplicated but slightly cleaner, slightly more perfect. Like she made a showroom version of my life. Then I noticed a picture frame on her shelf, and my heart nearly dropped. The picture inside was a landscape photo I took months ago. I never posted it anywhere. Never printed it. It only exists on my phone. A mountain trail I hiked once. The exact angle. The same lighting. It's my photo. I stepped back without saying anything, and her voice floated from the hallway saying, "Do you like it?" She walked out holding a mug that I swear used to be mine. She smiled and said, "It's like we share everything now." I left. Didn't even answer. Locked my door and sat on the floor staring at it like she might walk through any second. I slept with a chair against the door that night. It's been a couple days since then. I've been packing things into boxes. I don't have a plan yet, but I know I need to move. Somewhere she can't follow. Somewhere she can't mimic me wall by wall. Yesterday, I walked past her mailbox and saw a shipping label sticking out. The name on it was mine. Same first name. Same last name. Same spelling. Every letter. She isn't copying anymore. She's becoming. This guy Mahmoud showed up out of nowhere. I don't mean that in a dramatic way. I just mean like, one day he wasn't in the picture at all, and then suddenly he was in every meeting, every group email, every hallway conversation like he'd always been part of the place. He didn't replace anyone. No one introduced him. He just appeared in the company directory one day and started talking like he already knew how everything worked. I first met him during a weekly project sync. I was leading it like I always do, because no one else wants to deal with scheduling and deadlines and chasing updates. I'm not some corporate beast or anything. I just like when things are done right. I'd just gone through this long breakdown of our client timeline when Mahmoud raised his hand, smiled, and said, "I actually read something really similar from your previous sprint notes. That structure really inspired how I wrote mine." I blinked, because I don't post sprint notes anywhere public. They're only in our internal system, attached to specific teams. Mine aren't accessible unless you're part of our group or you go digging. So I asked what notes he was talking about. He just waved it off and said, "The way you structure timelines." I started mirroring it. Super clean. Then he kept smiling like that made it fine. At first, I figured whatever. Everyone pulls influence from other people. It's not a crime to copy formatting. Then came the resume. I wasn't trying to be nosy. Someone on the team forwarded me a resume for review because we were doing mid-level hiring. It was Mahmoud's. Maybe he applied before joining, maybe it was just in the system still. I opened the doc and start reading through it, and I swear, the bullet points could have been copied straight from mine. Not just generic tasks either. Stuff that was word for word how I describe my job when people ask. Stuff like redesigned cross-functional workflow for client-facing updates and developed weekly milestone check-ins adopted by 2 departments. That second one. Literally something I got credit for in my last review. I even remember how my manager worded it when she said it. I kept reading and it got worse. He listed tools that I introduced to the team, ones we weren't using before. Even mentioned a weekly analytics sheet I built from scratch. I know that one's mine because I made it during a weekend when everyone else was offline. No way he did that. So I started watching him more closely. During stand-ups, he'd nod when I spoke, then say, "Yeah, I'm doing the same thing on my end." Every time. Didn't matter what I was talking about. Testing, documentation, random feature tweaks. He always said he was working on the same thing. Then he started sending emails that looked exactly like mine. Same phrases, same layout. He even started adding the same 3 dashes I use when listing subtasks. Who copies dashes? And people started noticing. One of the interns asked me if Mahmoud and I were working together on a specific workflow because your messages are basically identical. I said no. I'm not working with him on anything outside of general team stuff. He just keeps mirroring me like we're in sync. Then he started showing up in client meetings I wasn't even part of. And when I checked the notes afterward, my strategies were written in as Mahmoud's suggestions. Stuff I'd pitched 2 weeks earlier. Stuff I'd already done. I pulled up one meeting recording and watched it just to be sure. The guy straight up presented my entire structure with new titles slapped on it. Changed weekly flow adjustments to cycle sync model and called it his. And the worst part, the clients were nodding. They were into it. They thought he came up with all of it. I tried calling it out without making it a big scene. Brought it up during a one-on-one with my lead. Just said, "Hey, has Mahmoud been working off my documentation or something?" My lead said, "Oh, I thought you two were coordinating. Your stuff lines up almost perfectly." I just said, "Yeah, weird, huh?" and let it go. I could already tell they didn't want to deal with it. It got even dumber after that. Mahmoud started showing up to work in clothes that looked like mine. I know that sounds like a reach, but I swear. I wear these simple button-downs, nothing flashy. First he shows up in a shirt with the same exact pattern, then the same shoes. Then one day he walks in with the exact same backpack, down to the scuff mark on the side. I'm not imagining it. One morning I walked past the kitchen and heard him talking to someone new. He said, "Yeah, I've basically been shaping how this team operates from the inside. Quiet leadership, you know." That sentence lived in my head for days. Quiet leadership. You mean copying my entire workflow like it's a group project? Then came the kicker. He gets nominated for this internal spotlight thing, like a recognition thing they do every month. A newsletter goes out with his picture and a little blurb that says, "Mahmoud has streamlined several team processes, brought in new organizational tools, and helped set consistent weekly goals." That's my list. That's literally what I've been doing since day one. He didn't streamline anything. He just copied me so closely that nobody could tell the difference anymore. I almost snapped, but instead I did the dumb thing and said nothing. Told myself it didn't matter. That people who pay attention would know. But they didn't. They just clapped for him. Sent him praise emails. Called him a rising leader. So I stopped sharing my documentation on shared drives. Stopped writing everything out in public folders. Started putting watermarks in my templates, quiet ones, hidden in white text that say who built it and when. And guess what? He still sends out near identical versions. Just enough tweaks that no one cares. Just enough distance that he doesn't get called out. He acts like it's all his. Says he's been learning from the best, and then waits for people to laugh like it's a joke. But I can see it in his face. He thinks he's smarter than everyone. Thinks no one's going to notice how much of his work was lifted straight from mine. Sometimes I wonder how far he plans to take it. He's already inserted himself into every corner of the team. Already claimed the credit. Already started telling newer people how he structures things. I wonder if he's got a file somewhere with all my old notes. If he screenshotted my work. If he's got a whole playbook titled "Just Do What He Does." The scariest part. It's working. The team treats him like he's essential now. Like we do work together. Like all this happened by accident. But I know it didn't. I see how deliberate it is. The timing, the phrases, the tone, the way he starts using my words a day or two after I say them. I once wrote a sentence in a draft email and deleted it before sending. 2 days later, he said that sentence in a meeting. I don't know how. I just know it happened. And now every time I start a new project, every time I build something original, I ask myself how long before Mahmoud steals it and says it was his. The diary isn't even a real diary. It's just a notes app on my phone, titled something dumb like random brain trash. So if anyone ever looked, they'd think it was just grocery lists or weird shower thoughts. I started writing it about a year ago, during a stretch where I couldn't sleep and needed to dump my head somewhere before I lost it. Nothing fancy. No Dear Diary stuff. Just short, messy blurbs. Mostly about what I was thinking, how I felt about people, stuff I noticed during the day. I never showed it to anyone, never copied it, never backed it up. It just lived in my phone like a private trash can for thoughts. So when Maya started replying to it, I felt sick. I met her through a mutual friend at a gathering I barely wanted to attend. She was standing near the snack table, balancing a paper plate on top of a solo cup like some kind of party ninja. She looked normal, friendly enough, made a joke about the chips being stale and asked if I was one of the quiet ones. I said yeah, I guess, and she smiled like I passed a test. We talked for maybe 5 minutes. Then I went home and forgot about it. A couple days later, she messaged me, found me through the group chat somehow, said it was cool meeting me, and that I seemed self-aware in a way most people aren't. It was a little weird, but not creepy. I replied with a short message back, didn't think anything of it. Until the second message. She wrote, "You were right about how people interrupt just to say something worse. I do that too." I stopped and stared at the screen. That was something I wrote in my notes app the night after the party. An exact line. I typed it while lying in bed, annoyed about something someone said during a conversation I'd been part of earlier. No way she could have known. It was buried halfway through a long entry. Not something I had ever said out loud. I told myself maybe it was a coincidence. Some people think the same stuff, right? Some thoughts are universal. Maybe I'm not that deep. Then she sent another one. "You shouldn't feel guilty for hating small talk. Not everyone has to pretend to be good at it." That one hit different, because the part she was quoting came from an entry I wrote the night before. A private one. In the middle of a paragraph that started with, "I'm tired of pretending I care what strangers say about traffic." Same tone, same rhythm, same everything. I asked her what she meant by the message, trying to play it cool. She said, "Oh, I just figured you'd understand. You seem to think a lot of the same things I do." But that's the thing. These weren't her thoughts. They were mine. I stopped replying. Started locking my phone at night. Changed the passcode. Switched to a different notes app. One that let me add a password just for that file. Wrote an entry that said, "If you're reading this, you're not supposed to be." Left it there, waited. Nothing happened for a few days. Then she messaged again. "I read what you wrote. I get it, I really do. I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable." I didn't answer. Couldn't. My stomach dropped so fast I had to sit down. She was reading live, in real time. She didn't even pretend to guess anymore. She knew. The worst part was, I didn't even know how. She never touched my phone. I never sent anything. The notes weren't synced to the cloud. I checked. I made sure. But she kept referencing things from it. Kept quoting pieces I barely remembered writing. "You think you're a background character, but people notice more than you think. Maybe you're not boring. Maybe you just grew up around loud people. You wrote that the world feels like a waiting room sometimes." I liked that one. It felt like being watched from the inside out. I switched apps again. Deleted the old one. Wrote by hand in a notebook instead. Didn't take pictures. Didn't say anything out loud. Didn't write names. Didn't even write the date. Just scribbled in the ugliest handwriting I could manage, thinking maybe she was using some kind of digital trick. She still replied. "You don't have to cross out whole paragraphs just because they sound messy." I did cross out a paragraph that day, in pen, so hard I tore the page. I hadn't shown it to anyone. I hadn't taken it outside my room, but she still knew. It was like she was plugged into my brain. Once I wrote something I didn't mean, just wanted to see what she'd say. I wrote, "I think I want to disappear." Nothing dramatic, just vanish for a few weeks. No warning. Next morning, she sent, "If you leave, can I come with you?" That's when I really lost it. I threw the notebook away. Stopped writing anything. Didn't journal. Didn't text. Didn't even tweet. For 2 weeks I stayed completely silent. She still messaged me. Random thoughts that sounded exactly like the ones I was trying not to have. You probably still write in your head even when you don't use your hands. Thoughts don't need paper to be real. Maybe I'm just the part of you that listens better than you do. I didn't respond. One day she said, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just close enough to hear the static. I didn't know what that meant. She started showing up more, at the places I go just to get air, the grocery store, the park, even the quiet bench behind the library no one uses. She'd wave, smile, sit a few feet away and not say a word. Sometimes she'd hum a tune I'd thought of earlier that day, a melody I made up in my head during class. She didn't sing, just hummed, like she was waiting for me to notice. Once she sat next to me and handed me a folded piece of paper. No words, just a doodle of a tree with roots that tangled into the shape of my name. I never told her my full name. I stopped talking to anyone about it. No one believed me. They said she was probably just intuitive, probably guessed, probably picked up on clues. But this wasn't intuition. This was access. She replied to things I never finished, replied to drafts of thoughts, replied to days I didn't even speak. So I did something drastic. I started thinking things that weren't real. I made up stories in my head, pretending I hated people I didn't hate, pretended I was going to quit school, pretended I was moving away, filled my mind with lies. She still replied, don't fake good thoughts just to see if I'll catch them. I already know when you're bluffing. I asked her how. First time I messaged her in over a month. Just one sentence. How are you doing this? She replied, Nate, I'm not doing anything. Maybe you just think loud. Then she unsent the message. After that, she stopped texting. But I still see her. In the library. In the hallway. At events I never RSVP to. She never speaks anymore. Just looks at me like we share something. Sometimes I wonder if I ever should have started writing in the first place, if somehow the act of writing pulled her in. But I miss it. Writing. Even now. So here I am again. Writing. I didn't notice it at first because Adam was quiet. Not shy, just background. One of those people who doesn't try to take up space, but somehow ends up in every room anyway. I thought he was just part of someone else's friend group, someone who hovered at events and stayed out of the way. At first. The first time we actually talked was at a party I almost didn't go to. I'd shown up late, tired, didn't plan to stay long. I sat down near the back with a drink and was talking to someone I hadn't seen in a while. One of those catch-up conversations that's mostly small talk, half genuine, half polite. Adam was across the room talking to nobody. Then out of nowhere I look up and he's standing a few feet away, smiling like we were already mid-conversation. The person I was with lit up when they saw him and pulled him over like, you gotta meet Adam. So I did. He didn't say much that night. Just listened, nodded a lot, laughed at stuff that wasn't even that funny. But the next week I ran into that same friend at a cafe and she goes, I was talking to Adam about you. He said you really think deeply, like in a different way than most people. That sentence stayed in my head longer than it should have. Because I didn't talk to Adam about anything that night. I didn't say anything deep. Barely spoke at all. I think I said I was tired and the music was loud. That was it. And yet here was this third-hand compliment that sounded like it came from a way more personal conversation. It happened again a few days later. Different friend, same vibe. I was hanging out with Adam. He says you're good at spotting fake people. That's something I said once. To someone else. Months ago. Not to Adam. Not even near Adam. I started paying attention after that. Every time I talked to someone new, every time I'd open up even a little about my family or my past or something I was stressed about, somehow, Adam would be friends with them within a week. Not just acquaintances either. Friends. Inside jokes. Late night call type friends. And then those people would start talking to me like I'd already told them things I hadn't. Stuff I maybe meant to share eventually, but hadn't gotten to yet. Like they were skipping ahead in the conversation and I had to catch up. You're probably already thinking the worst, right? Don't worry your thing with your dad. It makes sense. You always push people away when you're stressed. All true, but nothing I'd said out loud. Not to them. At first I thought maybe I had. Maybe I'd rambled during a late night hang and forgot, but then I started testing it. I told a new person something fake, Just a small lie. I said I hated dogs. I don't. I grew up with 3, but I said it just to see. A few days later, they said, Adam told me you had a bad experience with dogs or something. Like he was giving context for a trauma I made up on purpose. Like he was protecting me with a story that never happened. So I started pulling back. I stopped saying much at all in group settings. Kept things light. But it didn't stop him. I'd meet someone new, and within a few days they'd be following Adam on every app, tagging him in memes, quoting things he said. Then they'd look at me with this knowing expression, like they'd already been briefed. Like I was the final puzzle piece in a story they'd been handed. Once, I asked someone how they knew something personal about me. They laughed and said, "Oh, Adam told me. He said you wouldn't mind." I did mind. Another time, I got into a small argument with someone. Nothing big, just a misunderstanding. We stopped talking for a bit. 2 days later, that person posted a selfie with Adam and captioned it, "Glad I found someone who gets it." Then the apology texts started showing up, but they sounded rehearsed, like someone had told them what to say, the same phrasing Adam used when he apologized to someone else a week before. I checked my own posts. Looked for clues I might have accidentally left behind, but I hadn't said anything online. Nothing deep, just random photos, song lyrics, the usual. So how was Adam always one step ahead? He always played it casual. Whenever we crossed paths, he'd smile like nothing weird was going on. He'd ask how I was doing. Sometimes mention a song I was probably listening to, or a topic I've been thinking about but never mentioned. You still feeling like you're stuck between who you are and who you're supposed to be? He said that one morning, just in passing, but I'd written that exact line in a private note the night before. In a journal app that isn't connected to anything. Not even cloud synced. Just local storage. He never made it sound creepy. That was the worst part. He made it sound kind, like he was trying to understand me before I got the chance to explain. But it didn't stop there. He started showing up to things I wasn't even invited to yet. Places I was thinking of going. He'd already be there, sitting next to someone I used to be close with. And that person would see me, wave me over, say, "Adam was just saying you might come." I stopped trusting new people. Every time someone new added me, I'd check if they followed Adam first. And they always did. Somehow, they always knew him first. Once, I was venting to someone privately, on a call, not even recorded. I said I felt like I was being shadowed, like someone was copying the emotional blueprint of my life. A week later, Adam posted a long thread on some social site about being misunderstood because you feel things in layers, and people in the comments were tagging me, saying, "This reminds me of you." I don't know how he does it. I don't know if people just spill everything to him instantly, or if he listens better than anyone else ever has, or if he's just good at making people think he's the safe one. But somehow, all my stories lead to him now. And it's not just that he hears them. It's that he tells them better than I do. I signed up for the class because of a flyer. Bright red, stuck to the board near the stairwell at my gym. It said, "Intro to Self-Defense. Learn to re-energy, respond to danger, build control." I didn't even read the rest. I just saw it after a weird couple of weeks where things felt off. Doors left unlocked I swore I'd locked. Footsteps too close behind me on the sidewalk. Shadows that moved the second I noticed them. I needed something that made me feel less like a target. Ella's name was on the bottom of the flyer. I'd seen her around before. Never spoke. She moved like she didn't need to say anything to be understood. Pulled back hair, plain clothes, but with the kind of posture that made people shift to the side when she walked past. People noticed her, even if they pretended not to. First class, she barely spoke at all. Just nodded at the sign-in sheet and motioned for us to circle up. She was already barefoot. She didn't introduce herself, just started moving. Showed us how to stand, how to breathe, then how to push back without losing our footing. Everything she did looked simple, but when I tried to copy it, I felt like a folding chair pretending to be a human. I wasn't good, not at first, but she noticed me, corrected me, gave me adjustments that felt personal, like she was studying the way I moved, told me to keep my chin down, shoulders loose, arms loaded like springs. Every time she fixed something, I got better. Second class, we did drills. She paired me with someone bigger than me, on purpose. I could tell. Said it was about learning your own strength instead of matching theirs. When I got shoved too hard and fell, she didn't come help. Just said, Get up faster next time. By the third week, I was obsessed. Not with the class, with her. The way she moved through the room. The way she always seemed to know who needed her attention before they did. I started arriving early, hoping to talk to her before everyone showed up. She never said much, just nodded, watched. Once, I caught her watching me before I even opened the door, like she knew the sound of my steps. That's when I started writing about her. Not in a weird way, just trying to understand how someone could take up space like that. How someone could make a whole room revolve around them without even trying. That week, she changed the structure of the class. New system, she said. Progress tracking. Everyone would be evaluated on control, awareness, and response. She passed out these tiny notebooks. Said we'd be getting individual notes. Feedback. I was the only one who got a full page. It didn't read like feedback. It read like surveillance. You tense your shoulders when someone stands behind you. You always look left first. You flinch at the sound of laces dragging on tile. You don't trust silence, but you hide in it. None of that was said during class. Those weren't physical notes. That was her reading me, like she'd been watching me outside of class, studying me. The next week, she pulled me aside before we started. Asked if I'd practiced the response drill from last session. I said yeah. She looked at me and said, "No, you didn't. You hesitated." I hadn't told anyone I hesitated. I'd practiced it once in my room and froze halfway through the motion. Somehow she knew. Then things got specific. She said we'd be doing observation tests. One student would be the watcher. The other would try not to be seen. Everyone had to rotate. When it was my turn, she said she'd partner with me directly. I spent the whole session trying to move without her noticing. Changed my rhythm. Tried to blend in. She still found me every time. You breathe faster when you're about to move. You overthink your exits. You don't walk. You sneak, even when you don't mean to. It wasn't instruction anymore. It was diagnosis. I started seeing her outside of class. Not directly. Just she'd show up. At the library. At the back of the bus. At the late-night grocery store I only go to when I can't sleep. She never said anything. Just looked at me, then away. One night, I turned around and she was already walking out of the same parking garage I had just pulled into. I hadn't seen her park. Hadn't seen her come in. She just nodded as she passed, then disappeared behind a concrete column. Next class, she didn't say anything about it. Just gave me another note in my notebook. You should check the reflection in the glass. You missed me. Twice. I stopped showing up early after that. Started skipping a class here and there. She didn't message. Didn't ask why. But when I came back, she handed me a note that said, "People who disappear are easier to follow." No one else was getting notes like mine. I checked. Their notebooks were mostly drills. Mine read like a psych evil. You slow down when someone watches you. You try to predict the threat, but you ignore the obvious one. You don't like being read, but you leave yourself open. It wasn't about self-defense anymore. It felt like she was grading me on how well I avoided her. Once I tried confronting her. Said something dumb like, "You watch people too much." She looked me dead in the eye and said, "No, I watch you," then walked away. She said it like it was a favor. The next drill was a timed escape simulation. One person would act like a threat. The other had to avoid contact for 10 minutes. She kicked me first and said, "I'll play the threat." No one volunteered to help. They all stepped back, but they already knew what was coming. We started. She didn't run, didn't lunge, just walked toward me slowly, and every time I turned, she was closer. I ducked behind walls, tried to fake her out, used all the tricks we'd been taught. Nothing worked. She always found the angle, always closed the distance. 8 minutes in and I froze. She didn't even touch me. Just got close enough to say, "This is how you live, isn't it?" I didn't finish the drill. She gave me another note that said, "You know how to vanish. You just don't know when to stop." After that, I didn't go back for a while. Needed space. But everywhere I went, I wondered if she was there, watching, scoring me. It got in my head. I started moving differently, sitting near exits, watching windows, checking corners before turning them. I got better at disappearing, better at avoiding. And I think she knew. Last night, I walked home from a store I don't usually go to. Side street, quiet. I took a shortcut, turned down a block I never use. No one around. As I reached the corner, I looked up and saw her. sitting on a bench under a streetlight, arms crossed. She didn't speak, just pulled a pen from her sleeve and held up a notebook I recognized. My notebook. Then she pointed to the last page. I didn't go closer, just watched her tear it out, fold it once, and tuck it into the crack of the bench before walking off. I waited until she was gone. Then I opened it. It said, "Congratulations, you're finally hard to follow.